You're speaking modern English. There's an old English that we probably couldn't even read if it was put in front of us.
Which book are you reading from?
The Bible you speak?
Yes,
Yeah, the KJV, King James.
King James version. Okay, what was that?
Yeah.
1611. I'm also using the Blue Letter Bible because there's breakdowns behind some meanings on
Okay.
certain topics. Because you have to go into the Greek and the Hebrew translation for those words and the meaning in that time that they were being used in that form.
All
Like
right.
one example where we go through Matthew, where it talks about the
Hold
lineage,
on.
and it
Let
goes
me get
through
that.
all the lineage.
Wait, let me get that with you.
Matthew 1, chapter 1.
Matthew, chapter 1. You
Matthew
said?
1, chapter 1. Yeah.
Okay. What verse? What
Because I
verse?
guess the topic, so I'm not confused, the topic was if we were trying to validate the fact if Joseph was the father or not of the Messiah, right?
Right. So what verse? Yes, exactly. What verse in Matthew chapter 1?
Let me pull up my book.
So I can just read with you.
Where pretty much where it goes down over the lineage of from David all the way down to Joseph.
Okay.
And then right under that verse, it talks about how Mary begat the son, and she was also Joseph's wife.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. We also realize that today, even in modern times, that what do we do to consummate a marriage?
No, in modern times, if so, you could get married, but if you don't have sex with that woman, that marriage can
Yes.
be voided.
Okay, so we have the understanding that sex is the consummation of the marriage, right?
Right, but you could be married without sex. You have to have
Yes.
sex at some point, or it's gone. Right.
Well, which term are we going for marriage? Because if we're going to the according to the Bible, once a man had sex with a woman, that marriage was sealed.
Right, but what I'm saying
That's
to you
why
is
they had the ceremony.
yeah,
That's why they had the ceremony of the red rag, and the bride or the bridegroom would have to show it to the father. And if she did not show the red rag of her being a virgin on that day of the consummation, she would be stoned because it would bring shame to the family.
So all I was trying to add in was that I agree with you, but you also can take a wife and then go into her later. Like it's not necessarily you don't have to take a wife and go into her right away. So I could show you different stories in the Bible where people took a wife and went into her later, but when they took a wife, that was actually his wife.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's on the public aspect of where everybody knows you're joined as a couple. Now, on that verse where I'm talking about, to show you, because we know that the lineage is traced to the father's bloodline, right?
Most lineages, yes.
I mean, in the Bible, the lineage is traced through the father's bloodline when it comes to the seed line of Israel. Everything is traced through the father's bloodline. From Abraham all the way down to Isaac, Jacob, all the way down to Joseph and Yahushua.
I think
it's talking about a certain lineage of the 12 tribes.
Yeah,
and it's tracing them to my father. That's why I have most books talking about this person begot this person, begot this person. It's talking about the father's seed, passing down the seed line.
Well, I would say most lineages do that for Israel, but I would say there are some rare situations where it passes through the woman and not the father.
Where is this? I think it's in Leviticus where it talks about where they assemble the nations and they would determine which tribe they come from based on their father's lineage.
Yeah,
and that's how you will know which tribe you come from. This is why it reseals to tell you that's how the lineage is traced, is through the father's bloodline. When it came to the Israel, the other heathen nations that were talked about, mentioned in the Bible, they used the mother's bloodline. This is why the Bible tells you in Revelation, at the end time, there should be a turning upside down of things where the woman shall be esteemed and compass the man. We're in the spirit of woman worship now, which is why they left out Joseph from the Bible.
No, Joseph
left out Joseph from the no, he's not the Bible, I mean, but the teaching on the aspect. So now when you look at certain things, the church has pushed people to look at Mother Mary and the Son, and then you don't see the Father. But they say it's the Holy Spirit. But right in there in Matthew, it tells you that he begot Yahawadah. He took on Mary as a wife. He didn't want to put her away because Mary was staying with her father. Like I said, if they had consummated the marriage and she was already pregnant, which she was told through the dream, they were together already. That's why he tried to put her away privily, because he knew already what was going to happen.
You said they were
And
together
then after
already.
that, yes, they were together already.
So why
They
does
were
it say
together
before
already.
they? So
Because
why
you
does
have
it
to
say?
look at the context in the,
Right, but
the,
hold
the
on.
Blue Letter Bible,
Right.
where it talks
Let
about.
me get one word in, please. Then why does
Hmm?
it say before they came together? If they was, I mean, like that wouldn't make sense.
Because they weren't unionized as a couple officially. They had
Right.
slept together, but they were not unionized as a couple. This is why I say
Okay.
you have to go down to the virgin breakdown for the word virgin. Back then, it meant a young woman. Not today's standard, what we think of a woman that hasn't had sex yet. It's not the same meaning.
Now, when you
It
say
meant the
back
same thing as
then,
a maiden.
when you say back then, you're talking about the Roman period
As
or the
in, yes, you have to
Hebrew?
look at the definition of the word with the virgin, the Greek Hebrew translations for that term. It meant
Right.
a young woman, a maiden,
Wait,
not
wait,
a
hold on.
woman that hadn't had sex yet.
Wait, I'm just trying to follow you. So when you say back then, are you young women? Are you saying because you know the
Yes,
Hebrews are? Oh,
because
wait, hold on. Let
we're
me get
looking at the translation through the book, right?
right. But hold on.
When
Let
you
me
read
just get a
certain
word
parts in
out,
the book,
please.
you'll see little letterings
Right, but hold on. Can I
next
get a
to
word?
them.
Just 1 second, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get where you're going. I understand where you're going. I think so. I'm looking for clarification. When you say, because you said back then, are you saying back in the Romans time, virgin meant young women, or back in the
As
ancient?
in back in the time where this event was happening, the term virgin was not meant to say specifically a woman that had slept with a man or that hadn't slept with a man. Virgin meant the same thing as young maiden, a maiden.
You
It's a
think so?
young woman. Yes, you can look up the
Okay.
definition in the Strong's
All
according to
right.
the Blue Letter Dictionary.
All right. So let's go to. Can you go to the book of Luke real fast?
Yep, I'm in Luke
Go to verse. I believe it's 27. Can you read that?
27.
Yeah.
Which chapter?
Luke chapter 1, verse
All right.
27.
Yep.
Okay, read that for me.
It says, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, for the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary.
So
Again, you have to look at the translation for virgin.
Okay, go ahead. So where
You
are
have
you?
to
Where
look
are you
at
at?
the translation. I'm in
What
Luke
website?
1.
No, I'm saying you said look into it. So what website can I go to? Blue Letter or Bible Hub? Or it doesn't matter.
Yes, the Blue Letter. Be able to find in the Blue Letter.
All right, so I'm here. So I'm looking at it and I'm clicking virgins. Okay, so that's Parthenos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you know what
Well,
Parthenos
I'm
means?
looking at you. My service is being kind of slow, so give me a
Yeah,
second.
yeah. Do you know what Parthenos mean?
The
Like, for
Greek word,
example, yeah, are you familiar with Athena Parthenos, the Greek goddess?
Parthenos,
Athena Parthenos. Are
sounds
you
familiar.
familiar with her? Right.
No,
Okay, well,
I
she's a
couldn't
Greek.
tell you off the top of my head.
All right, so let me just share with you. So the word, so Parthenos is come from her, right? She's part of other Greek goddesses who were virgins, no sex. So Parthenos, so her name was actually Athena the Parthenos, which literally translates to Athena the Virgin. So Parthenos definitely mean a woman without sex. So that's why I had you read verse 27. And then if you do this for me, so it's going to make sense if you read one more verse in Luke chapter 1, because it said virgin, right? And I need you to read 34.
All right, give me a second.
Yeah.
Luke chapter 1, 34.
Yeah, 34.
All right, and it says, then said Mary unto the angel, how shall this be, seeing I know not a man?
So will you agree at this point she's an actual woman without sex?
He was not married as in consummated.
Right. Well, hold on.
This
But
is
I'm
all
saying,
because you have to go back into why they had to leave.
right. Well, hold on. Wait. 1 second. I'm just trying. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong or right. I'm just getting your understanding. So when it says, I know not a man, do you take that to believe she's a virgin without sex?
No.
You're breaking up. I can't even hear you.
No.
So you believe she already had sex at this point?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. I'm not here to, argue. Again, I'm just trying to follow your understanding, and that's it. So I'm not going to tell you you're wrong or right. I'm just getting your understanding. All right, no problem. So you could get you okay. So carry on from there. So explain what you believe is going on, and I'll you could just go freely.
Okay. So going back to Matthew, on
What
we're
chapter?
also talking about Romans in Romans 3, was it 3 chapter 1 or chapter 3 1 talks about that where they were referring to Yahawadah as Joseph's son, which is why they had problems believing him as the son of God. Joseph,
Wait.
mother and father, how do you claim to be the son of God? I have to find the verse.
No, you broke up. I heard some of what you said, but not all. You broke up a little bit.
No, talking about the verse in Romans, I think it was 3 and 1. Hold on, let me find it.
Yeah. Give me what it says. I might could find it for you because I have,
I'm just summarizing from the general basis in my head from what I'm trying to find the word. But it's speaking of how they were referring to, or the people around were referring to Yahawadah, aka Jesus, as the son of Joseph and Mary.
Okay, yeah, that won't be Romans.
This is why they were confused. Right. Why they were calling him the son of, or he was calling himself the son of God.
Yeah, that wouldn't be Romans because he would be already crucified by that time. You must be talking about Matthews or something like that.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, Romans would be way too late. He's already gone.
What is 1 and 3? Where they were talking about concerning Son Jesus Christ, our Lord, which is made the seed of David, which was made from the seed of David according to the flesh. And according to the flesh.
Read that over. Can you read that over?
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Concerning his son, Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Whose son?
His son. That's what it's saying. Romans 3 and 1. Hold on.
No, but who's the his? Whose son is this?
Joseph.
So wait. So Romans 1 and 3, you think that's talking about Joseph?
All right. Right here. They're talking about the prophets that prophesied before him, right? And they promised before him. And they're saying, concerning the son of Jesus Christ our Lord, which was made the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the Son of God with power according to the Spirit of holiness by the resurrection of the dead.
So whose son is that? Is it God's or okay? So is 3 talking about
he? Right in that same verse, it's explaining how he became from the seed of David.
Right. No
we
problem.
already went over how the seed line is traced down through the man.
Yeah. No problem there. I'm just establishing that when it says concerning his son, that's talking about God, right? Not Joseph.
Chapter 3 or verse 3?
Yeah, it's talking about God. It's not Joseph there.
Well, he's the son of God. Yes.
Right. No, I'm saying verse 3.
Our debate is talking about us having the clarification on him being the son of Joseph. We already have it established that he is the son of God.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah. I wasn't sure where you was going. That's why I wanted to get clarity.
Going directly at what we're talking about for the debate. It's established that he is the son of God. They had a problem believing that then.
Okay. So I want to get your understanding on. Can you go to Revelation 22?
All right.
I want your understanding on this. Let me know when you're there.
Revelations 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you get me? Can you read 16?
Jesus, I have sent my angel. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches, that I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star.
So what that mean to you?
He came from the seed line of David, as in where he was prophesied to come from.
So when
the Lion of Judah would spring forth from the loins of David.
I got you. So when it says he's the root of David, what does that mean to you?
He was the same bloodline that David was born from.
No
in
problem.
The spirit.
Wait,
hold on. Genetics are your ancestors. This is why it had to be specific on who begat, who begat,
Wait,
who begat, who begat.
right, I got you. And we'll talk about that in a second. But brother, do you know, okay, so offspring means you're the end of it, and root
Yep,
means
and the beginning.
Right. So root
Because he
means
was the first spirit created.
Right.
And the
But
Israelites came out of that.
But hold on, brother. We're sharing, right? We're sharing. So it says, I, Jesus, am the root of David. So the root is the opposite of the offspring, correct?
I mean, if you want to look at it as a tree, where the root would be the base and the fruit would be the new beginning.
Yes. So if he's saying I'm the root of David, that means David comes through me.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's reincarnation.
Okay, you believe reincarnation? No problem. No sweat. All right. So continue.
There's reincarnation. And this is why it has it, because again, this is why I say the seed line is important. This is why the holy seed was to come through the seed line of David.
All right. Now you said
Joseph was the male heir that had that seed line of David. He passed it into Mary. Even though Mary was seed of David, she does not carry the seed. The man carries the seed. He puts it in the woman and plants it in her earth.
All right. Can you go to okay, I want your understanding on this. Can you go to Genesis chapter 2?
Chapter 2?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Let me just get there with you. Okay, here we are.
Which verse?
No, I'm sorry. Not chapter 2. What am I doing? Chapter 5.
Chapter 5?
Yeah. I'm all over the place. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Let me just find what I'm looking for because I'm all over the place myself. Genesis chapter 5. All right. Okay. So let me do it the hard way. Okay. Can you read verse 1 and where's and stop at the period. Read verse 1.
Verse 1 of chapter 5. And this is the book of generation, or this is the book of the generations of Adam.
Okay.
And in that day.
Wait, no.
Day,
no, wait. Hold on. We got to stop at the period. The period's there for a reason. So, So this is the book of generations of who? Of whom?
Adam.
Okay, now you can continue reading if you want.
In the day that God created man, and in the likeness of God made he him.
Okay, now read the last verse in this chapter, 32.
In where?
32, the last verse in this chapter.
And Noah was 500 years old.
Yep.
And Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Okay, so in this generation of Adam, it starts with Adam and it ends with Japheth, right? Noah's 3 sons, correct?
Yes.
Okay, can you go to so I want to so it stopped with Noah, so I want to pick it up back on Noah. Can you go to Genesis chapter 6 verses 9?
Right. And these are the generations of Noah. Noah is just a man and perfect in his generation. And Noah walked with God.
And then verse 10.
And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
So basically, like Adam, this starts with the generation of Noah. So he's the top, and then his descendants is below him. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So last one. I want to just make sure make sure we agree on generations. Last one. Let me.
You do realize too, this is also talking about the generation being passed down through the seed line of the man, because Ham, Shem, and Japheth were on there. Noah had a wife.
No problem.
And there were women on this boat.
No problem. But I just want to establish how generations are done. That's all, because you spoke about it, and I'm just confirming. So when it says the book of generations,
all through Psalms through the same thing. You can find the book of Psalms talking about the generations up until Solomon and David.
Okay, right. But I'm just establishing a pattern. that it's going to say the book of generations of a man. It's going to start with him and it's going to go down to his last offspring, right?
Yep.
So I got one more that I'm looking for, just to confirm, so we can, Amos 3:3 says, if we're going to agree, we got to walk together. So we got to first establish scriptures that we both agree on, and
Yep.
that's what we're doing. We're both agreeing. So just give me just 30 seconds to just go to the last example of this. The last example of this. Okay, cool. I'm looking right past it. Okay, so go to Genesis 25, verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that?
And now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, or bare unto Abraham.
Okay, so now it says the generations of Ishmael, and it's starting with him. He's first in this tree, right? And then it goes down. Can you read 13?
And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Abdil, and Mibzah.
Okay, so we agree that this is the generation of Ishmael. It starts with him, and then it goes down to his offspring, correct?
Yep.
Okay, is his offspring reincarnated versions of him, or are they just his sons?
They are his sons.
Okay, and the same thing with Noah, right? They're not reincarnated. These are his sons, right?
They are his sons.
And last one, Adam. These are his sons, not reincarnated versions of Adam, correct?
These are his sons.
Okay.
But there's only one that the Holy Spirit would be passed down through the generations with.
We're gonna deal with that.
Each generation.
Of course.
Shem was chosen. Isaac was chosen.
Of course. Now I agree because Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael, but it said even though Ishmael's firstborn, it said the covenant.
Ishmael wasn't the son of the promise.
Brother,
Ishmael wasn't the son of the promise.
Brother, listen. You're arguing me and I'm agreeing with you. Relax. Drop your guard. We're agreeing and you are disagreeing. I just said, even though Ishmael was the firstborn, the covenant was established with Isaac. So I'm agreeing with you when you said the chosen seed. Yep. I'm agreeing that many kids are born, but one is selected. We are agreeing. So drop your guard. We're agreeing. We're not disagreeing. Okay, so go to Matthew chapter 1, please.
Back to Matthew.
Okay, verse 1.
Right.
Can you read that?
The book, the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, and the son of Abraham.
Okay, so this is the book of whose generation?
Jesus Christ.
Right. Like
or who we call Jesus Christ.
Right. Like we read about Ishmael, Noah, and Abraham, right? It's their book of generations, right? Mm-hmm. Don't it start with them and go all the way down?
Yep.
Okay. So this is Jesus' generation. Okay, so it starts with Jesus and it go all the way down to Joseph.
The book of the generations of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, right? Which is saying that he came after.
Well,
but he was prophesied to before.
Wait, hold on. Wait, he can't come. Wait, hold on. Revelation says Revelation says the root. Revelation says the root and offspring. So we know that. So this is confirming that when it says the book of generation of somebody, you are the starting point. And he's the first person to be the starting point and the ending point. So I agree. I agree with Revelation.
Yes.
Right.
That's why he was the first spirit created to be handed all these.
Right. So he starts. So in this generation, he pops it off and he ends it all. So it's him starting it off and it's him at the bottom. Okay. Right. You agree with that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And this is where I'm saying, if you look at those lines right there, it's putting it in the fact that Jesus is the grandson of Abraham, who is the grandson of David on this.
But he's also listen. He's also the father Abraham. He's the grandson and also the father. Okay, so that's what I said.
He was also Adam.
Right. So we agree. Okay. So can you read verse 2?
Verse 2. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob. Jacob begot Judas and his brethren.
Right. So when it says the word begot, what does that mean? When it says Abraham begot Isaac, what does it tell me?
It came out of their loins.
Whose loins?
Isaac, Jacob came out of Isaac's loins, and Judas came out of Jacob's loins.
And who came out of Abraham's loins?
Isaac did.
Okay, I agree. Read verse 3.
And Judas begot Phares and Zara of Tamar. And Phares begot Esrom, and Esrom begot Aram.
Okay. This is interesting because it names two people from Judas. Like everybody else, it names one son. Have you noticed that this is the only father who it says begot two sons in his whole genealogy?
Yeah.
Okay. How many kids did Judas have total? Do you know?
Did who?
Judas.
Jews?
Judas.
Or Judas?
Yeah, Judas.
As far as I can see from here too.
Okay, so are you aware of who did evil in the sight of the Lord and he slew him?
I heard the story.
That was Judas' firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask yourself, why isn't here? But guess what? After he got slew, Judas said, hey, Onan, go into your brother's wife and raise up seed. And Onan, as you know the story, he had sex with her, but he spilled it on the ground. And the Lord slew him.
Yeah,
so
and he got killed because he was supposed to.
Right. And then
he was supposed to come into the woman,
right,
create a new life.
Okay, then he had a third child, Shelah, right? So he had three kids, and I find it interesting that none of them are in the genealogy except Phares and Zara. So Shelah's not. Onan died, died. Shelah is alive. Why wouldn't he be here? But why would they select Phares and Zara? Two people, and not the third born, Shelah. Do you know?
How the Most High ordained it.
Yeah, but it has to make sense because the Most High is not he's not the author of confusion.
Yes, and going down through here, because this is where it goes again. We're talking about the huge line of people being born, begot, the male figure.
So you never thought about why Shelah's not here and it went to two kids instead of one? You never thought about that?
Not on that aspect of where you're breaking it down. Is there a point you're trying to make about it?
Yeah. So when it says Judas begot Phares and Zara, okay, so Shelah's not involved at all. No problem. So the Most High chose Phares and Zara. But when it says, can you read verse 3 again?
Aram begot Abinadab. Abinadab begot
verse 3, 3. Verse 3.
Judas begot Phares and Zara of Tamar. And Phares begot Esrom. And Esrom begot Aram.
All right. Now, notice
Zara's the one missing out.
Who?
Zara.
Right. So do you think the Lord did any, mini, mighty, mo, catch a tiger by his toe, if it holler, let him go, any, mini, mighty, mo? Or do you think this is supposed to make sense? Why was Phares chosen to continue in this glorious?
He's the elder son.
Actually, he was
He's
not.
the elder son.
No, that's actually wrong. Zara's the older son.
Zara's the older son?
Yeah.
All right. Where do we prove this?
Genesis 38. Let's go.
Here we go. 38, chapter what?
Let's get right into it. Let's go to okay, first go to 3 first. So you can know all the sons.
Not 3.
38, read that.
So we're going through with Zara and Phares right now, right?
We're going to get there, but first let's confirm the 3 sons before them 2, okay? So read verse 3, 4, and 5. Are you reading in silence?
Verse 3, this is the son of Judah. For heir, okay. This is the son of Judah.
So are you reading? Okay, brother.
All right, so 3.
Wait.
Because
okay,
brother. Right above it says it's about Judah. And
okay,
Judah
wait.
The daughter of a
bro.
Canaanite. whose
Brother, hold
name
on
was
1 second.
Tua.
Brother, 1 second. Judas and Judas the same person. The Greeks add the S. They say Isaiah, they say Jeremiah, they add the S to the Hebrew H. So Greeks, they take the H out and they add the S. These are the same people. Okay, so that's why it does that. It does that for everybody. It takes the H off and they put an S there in the New Testament. The Old Testament keeps the H. So Isaiah, everybody with Obadiah, everybody with an H, if they're repeated in the New Testament, the H is gone and they supplant it with an S. So Judas.
So Judas would
Judah,
have been changed to the whole tribe of Judah.
no, listen
Is
what I'm
what
saying.
you're saying.
No, just follow me. If we also read Isaiah in the New Testament, there's not going to be an H there. It's going to say Isaiah with an S. And they take the S off and they take the H off and add an S. They take the I off and add an E. So because that's how the Greeks translated Hebrew. They put it in their language and they switch stuff around. Like same thing with Jesus. You know that. Jesus, there's no J, but they added a J.
And this
right?
is why we use the breakdowns for the blue letter. Because the definitions for those words, there's definitions in Greek and then there's definitions in Aramaic.
I got it. Hey, brother, what I'm saying is if you use your blue letter and go back to Matthew 1 and 3, it's going to say Judas as the son of Jacob. That's what it's going to tell you. So this is the same person. So can we read? Can you start with 3, 4, and 5?
All right. And she conceived and bare a son and called his name And she conceived again and bare a son and called his name Onan. And yet again she conceived and bare a son and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him.
Now remember, the New Testament used Tamar with an H. It says Thamar. Now read 6.
And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar.
Okay, so if you look at the New Testament, it's going to say Tamar with an H. So these are the same people. That's just how the Greeks, they just added more letters. Same people. So now verse 7, just to confirm what I'm saying is true. Can you read verse 7?
And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him.
Okay, read verse 8.
And Judah said unto Onan, go into thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother.
Okay, so what does that mean, raise up seed to his brother?
Because when the brother dies, it's part of the Levitical laws that the brother is supposed to take and produce seed to carry on the family line.
For who? For himself or his brother?
His brother.
Right. So Onan was supposed
so
to
the spirit can be born back through the genetics from the parentage.
No problem. So Onan's job at this point, according to Levitical law, like you just eloquently stated, was supposed to go into Tamar, Er's former wife, and have sex with Tamar to raise up seed for correct?
Yes.
So that child would have been called Er's son, correct?
Yes.
Even though its biological properties are of Onan, it still would have been known as Er's son, right?
But they would have been known as Er's wife's son. If had died without conceiving a son, it would have been known as Er's son. I mean, if died without conceiving a son, he wouldn't have had a son. But the genetics would bring back the lineage for him to be reborn. That's why I talk about the carnage or the lineage going back to reincarnation.
No problem. You're speaking too fast. Can you read verse 8 again?
8. And Judah said unto Onan, go unto thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed unto thy brother.
Right. So that means that the seed you're going to have, your brother is going to get the credit for that seed. So when that seed has children, and we look back at his lineage, will be the father of that lineage, not Onan. If you don't believe me,
wife, Onan.
Read verse 9 if you don't believe me. Read verse 9.
And Onan knew that the seed should not be his.
Stop right there. Wait. No. That's a semicolon. So the punctuation marks are there for a reason. It's to stop us. It's like a stop sign and yield sign. You gotta slow down. So read that again and stop at the semicolon.
And Onan knew that the seed should not be his.
What does that mean to you?
He would raise a child.
No.
That's supposed to be his brother's.
Right. But when he said, when you just read, Onan knew that his seed would not be his. What does that mean to you?
That wouldn't be his child.
Right.
Even though view it as his child.
Right. Even though that child biological makeup is Onan's. That he knew that this kid is donated to my brothers as my brother's son. Do you know that that's actually the law? The law is when you go into your brother's wife, right? So let me just clarify for anybody in the future. When you go into your brother's wife, that firstborn ain't yours. The secondborn is yours, not the firstborn. Okay, so read so keep reading.
10 or 9 again after the semicolon. It came to pass when he had went into his brother's wife that he had spilt on the ground, unless he should give seed to his brother.
So he didn't want that son of his to be donated and to be known as his brother's kid. Right? That's wrong. So read verse 10.
Verse 10. And the thing that which he did displease in the Lord, wherefore he slew him also.
Right. So because that's evil. So that means that the Lord says, Onan, that firstborn ain't yours. That's your brother's, even though that's your sperm. That spiritual child will be known as Ur's forever. You will get no credit for any of that lineage. So that's what that's talking about. Now, let's go to the twins, right? So let's go to 27.
Yep.
Okay, read that.
And it came to pass in the time of her travail that behold, twins were in her womb.
Okay, so let's read about it. Read verse 29.
And it came to pass as he drew back his hand that behold, his brother came out and said,
wait, I'm sorry. We skipped 28. Yeah.
And it came to pass when she travailed that one put out his hand, and the midwife took bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first.
Okay, so the one that came out first, what was on his hand?
Scarlet red thread.
Good. Let's read 29.
And it came to pass as he drew back his hand, and behold, the brother came out, and she said, thou broken forth this breach upon thee, therefore his name shall be called Phares.
Okay, so Phares was afterwards, after the firstborn. So read 30 and we're done.
And afterwards came out his brother, and that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah.
So now we know who had the scarlet upon his hand. He was the first one. So Zerah is the first one. The reason why it goes with Phares and not Zerah, because Zerah was donated to That's the law. The firstborn ain't yours. So they put a scarlet thread on his hand to let Judah know this ain't your kid. This goes to So now we go back to Matthew 1. Go back to Matthew 1 and read verse 3 again.
This is proven too. That's what I was saying earlier about the whole genetic chimerism.
Yeah,
and that's why the Bible told.
No, I agree with you.
That's why.
So read verse 3.
I was just talking to my wife just now.
Okay.
We were having a conversation about this earlier. This is why the Bible warned women not to be with two different men on aspects on certain things, because of genetic chimerism. This is why the first child got the genetics of and his brother was just to raise and put the seed in there, because she already accepted genetics in DNA in her body.
I agree.
She had DNA, but she just didn't have the seed.
No, I agree with you. If a woman have two men at the same time, she's going to call a whole ball of confusion. Okay, so I agree.
Well, there's a whole thing that's proven today. It's called genetic chimerism, where the woman's sexual partners or previous partners can be expressed in the child that she has with the new partner. Yeah, she can be with a whole new man, and her child will look like the old man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
She was with.
I'll be mad.
That's what I'm saying. It makes sense in the Bible here, where Onan had to raise his seed son, because
that's right.
Did not have the child with his wife, but she had the genetic information already put in her. He just didn't bear the child. Now Onan had the seed that was stronger to bear the child, but the genetic information was already in her to have Zerah. You know what I'm saying? Or not Zerah, Phares.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Okay, so now read verse 3 and stop at the punctuation mark, semicolon.
Chapter 1, verse 3?
Yeah. In Matthew's.
Judas begot Phares and Zerah of Tamar.
Okay, so you see, if you take off the H, that's Tamar, right? So that's Tamar. So Tamar is who is she to Phares and Zerah?
Who is who?
Who is Tamar to Pharis and Zara in verse 3?
Oh, the mother.
Right. So we got the mother in the genealogy. So we got the father getting credit for the sons in a male dominant genealogy, but we also have the mother listed here as taking credit for the twins. So it's not just the father, we have the mother taking credit of the twins. We got Tamar, and we know it's the mother because it says Pharis and Zara is what of Tamar, right? Tamar,
Yeah.
right? So the word of is a clue that she's the mother because
Yes.
of in English is a possession of is a preposition of possession. It's a preposition, so that means that they belong to her. Okay, cool. Read
Those
verse.
are her sons.
You got it. So read verse 5 and stop at the semicolon.
And Solomon began Booz of Rechab.
Right. So the father is who?
Solomon.
And how do we know for sure? Like just like if a 9-year-old's listening,
Because
how
he
do you?
got Booz.
Thank you. Thank you.
Which means he came out of him.
Right. Well, the
Booz
word
came
begot.
out.
Yeah. So the word begot, Solomon begot Booz would be enough to let you know who's the father. Okay. And how do we know who the mother is again? Because it says Rechab. So how do we know that?
Yeah, of Rechab. That's
right.
He came out of Solomon and went into Rechab.
Right. So it's letting you know that Booz is of Rechab, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
that's his mother.
Right. So when they want to show the father and mother relationship to the kid, we're going to read the father begets the son and the son is of the mother. So now confirmation is the next one. And stop at the semicolon. Next one.
And Booz begot Obed of Ruth.
There you go. So, and Booz begot Obed, and it's showing his wife involvement. It says Obed is of Ruth. So again, these mothers are getting credit for the son. So that means you can trace Ruth, Obed, Rechab.
This is still showing that they came from the father. It's just telling you
problem.
who their mother was.
Yeah, but no problem. But it's also showing that these are the mother's kids also.
Because right after Obed of Ruth, it tells you that Obed begat Jesse, and it doesn't tell you who Jesse's mother was.
Yeah, no problem. Right, we're not speaking about Jesse.
Because again, the story for the seed line of how the whole seed line
I got you, brother. But listen to what you got to listen to what I'm saying though. I'm saying you're right about Jesse. It don't mention his wife. You're right. So Jesse, we don't know his mother.
Mention Jesse's mother.
Brother, I'm saying the same thing. Just listen to me. Put your guard down. Put your guard down. I'm saying that when it comes to Jesse, it does not mention his mother. So we won't know his mother is unless you know the story, right? But in his lineage, she's not listed. She's omitted. But we have Ruth here. We have Rechab and we have Tamar. They're here. So they can't speak for other women. They're special. They're saying, yo, we're special women because you know who our son is. Let's say if Booz was written out this genealogy by mistake, you would still know who Obed's mother is because it says it. It says Obed of Ruth. So if Boaz was, his name is actually Boaz. If Boaz was omitted by mistake, you would still know one of Obed's parents because it says Ruth. But if Obed is omitted by mistake, you wouldn't know Jesse's parents. You'll think he's Melchizedek. Okay, so last verse, read verse 6.
Because you need the father. If you didn't have the mother, you would know who the mother is because they came out of the mother. This is why it's important to trace you through the father because that's how you know who the father and the family line goes through.
Yeah, and what's your name again?
Daniel.
Daniel, it was very important for the readers to know who these mothers were also because you just said
that's why they were put there.
Right. So the mothers was there listed with the man. So that means that these women, the author wanted the readers to know these men mothers. So they were very important because mothers are not listed in genealogy.
They must have been righteous women. They must have been some righteous women back then.
Actually, no, because they played the harlot. Tamar.
Yeah, true.
Matter of fact, and guess what?
That's also what I was bringing to the story of what happened with the story with Joseph. and marry. They were estranged to be married.
Wait. Before we go there, because you're fast forwarding, let's go back to the women. These women had bad reputations. They're the opposite what you said. One played the harlot and one was actually a harlot. And then Ruth was a Gentile. She wasn't even Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So all these women were looked down upon at one point. Okay, remember the two spies came to kill, I think it was Ruth. They came to kill her and her family, but they spared her and her family. So these are women who was once looked down upon and then was glorified. Like for example, Tamar.
Why were they spared though?
Okay, let me. Okay, watch this. Tamar, for example, played the harlot. Do you know Judas was about to get her killed? Do you know that for playing the harlot?
That's what usually happens. Get stoned.
Okay, but she didn't get killed. Do you know why he saved her life? He spared it. Because he said, even though you played the harlot, you was more righteous than me. So if you deserve to die, I deserve to die too. So he said, you were more righteous than me. Okay, yep. So the point is, all these women at one point was seen as like low individuals, and then they earned their respect from Israel. Okay, so verse 6, the last verse is 6, and then we'll talk about the next one, Joseph. So read verse 6.
And Jesse begot David the king, and David begot the king, David the king begot Solomon of her that which had been the wife of Urias.
Urias, and who's that?
Sheba.
Bathsheba, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, did Bathsheba have a good look on her, or was she also side-eyed?
Same thing.
Huh?
Same thing. That's what led Solomon astray.
Right.
Because of the side-eye and the worshiping of the other gods from her nation made him worship her God.
Hold on. But my point is, that's what I'm trying to let you know. All these women were not virtuous women. They were seen as the opposite because Sarah was virtuous. Rebecca and Rachel, these were virtuous women, but they're not listed. They only listed the women who were unvirtuous to show how they gained their respect later. So at one point, they were all
by being the mothers.
Wait, before they were mothers, they were looked upon as low. Okay? And then they earned their respect. Nobody gave it to them. They went and earned it of God and the men of Israel. All these guys turned around and respected all these women and said, wow, okay, now I see what this was all about. So this says David the king begot Solomon, and it says Solomon was of his mom Bathsheba. So you see, so when it wants to show a father and mother dynamic, it's going to say the father begot the son and the son of his mother in the same sentence, the same phrase. It's going to be all joined together. Okay, this is going to change though. Go to verse 16.
I mean, even when they do leave out the women, that doesn't mean that there was no woman involved in making the child.
I got you, but I'm showing you the pattern. When they want to mention the woman involvement, they're going to mention the man involvement by saying begot.
Because, and this is what I'm saying on that aspect. This is why they didn't feel as important to leave. They left out certain points because they didn't trace the family line by the woman.
Brother, we're agreeing, but you think we're disagreeing. I'm trying to show you the pattern in this particular genealogy. Because, brother, other genealogies don't just list one kid. They name all the kids. So if I take you to First Chronicles, they're going to name everybody. They're going to name all the kids. They're not going to just pick one. So this was a special genealogy in Matthew and Luke 3, special. All the other ones, they actually named all the, so all the other genealogies, they name all the kids. So they're not doing that in Matthew. They're naming one kid for a reason. So all this is going to make sense. This is a different type of genealogy.
That's where the seed line is being handed down through.
Okay, right.
But, or who we call Jesus.
Okay, no problem. But wouldn't you agree that the old way to take a genealogy, they list all the kids, right?
Well,
you don't know? I'll show you how they did it.
Hold on. If we put that into real, ask that question again.
Okay. So before Matthew's genealogy, all of the Old Testament genealogies, they showed you, they named all the kids belonging to the father. They didn't pick a selected one. They named all of them. They named Ishmael and Isaac and the other 6. from Abraham in Chronicles, or and other, not just Chronicles, but other Old Testament genealogies. Do you agree
Yeah,
or disagree?
we're also, yeah, I agree with you. But we're also looking at the differentiation, because there was points where, again, we had to point out that the seed wasn't just given to just because of the firstborn. It had to be
Right.
preordained to
I
go to
got
somebody
you.
else.
I got you. But
And
listen,
most of those were supposed to be pointed out. They gave most of these things to the firstborn as customs.
well, no, that's not true, because Ishmael was the firstborn. He didn't get it. Esau was the
That's
firstborn.
what
He
I'm
didn't
saying,
get it.
because he wasn't supposed to get it.
Right, right. But I'm listen, brother. You have to. If you listen to me instead of again, Mayweather, put your guard down. Put your guard down, Mayweather, and just listen to me. All I'm pointing
Hey,
out, all I'm pointing out to you is this: is that Matthew's genealogy was different. So this is something different. The other genealogies, they listed all the other genealogies. They listed all the kids. Matthew decided to stick with the promised seed only. You get it?
mm-hmm.
Okay, that's different because Abraham had more kids. Judas had more kids, but they're only listing this is a new
The
way to
promised seed.
right. But listen, what I'm saying though, that you need to agree with. This is the first time they're not listing all the kids. They're listing just the promised kid. Can you agree with that one?
Yeah, Ben agreed with that. That's why I
Right.
said they had to leave certain out, because you're tracing it to show you
Okay,
where David,
but that's not a
Solomon, all
true,
of them came from.
my brother. If you're leaving out kids, it's not a true genealogy. That's what I'm saying. It's not
But
true.
that's what I'm saying. If you look at it this way, right? Today, if I say, give me your genealogy, are you going to name your brothers and sisters? No, you're giving me your genealogy, which means which came before you, which were your mother and father, which were their mother and father. We don't care about their uncles and everybody else in
No.
between there. If we're
I got
tracing
it.
your genealogy on where you
No,
came from as a person today,
wait.
we
Hold
trace
on.
down your two
Let me ask
chromosomes
you a
that made
question.
you, that were paired.
Let me ask you a question. If you're chasing,
Mm-hmm.
if you're tracing my genealogy, it's going to go people before me and people after me. It's going to name my kids.
I understand that, but if we're starting with
All the
you as the
kids,
starting
not
point,
my favorite kid, not my favorite kid. It's going to list all my kids. So I'm saying Matthews, it just named the favorite kids only. This is the first time that was done. So this is not the way Israel took down the genealogies normally. This is a new way to
mm-hmm.
do it. That's what I'm saying. This is a new way. Okay, so this is not your traditional genealogy. So now this is not your original traditional genealogy. Now go to Matthew chapter 1, verse 16.
Same right here. And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of
Mhm.
whom was born Jesus, who was called Christ.
Okay, so who was Joseph's father?
Joseph's father is Jacob.
How do you know? What's the confirmation word?
Jacob begat Joseph.
Good. Who's Jesus'
Begat
father?
is him coming out of the loins.
Right. So
And
who's
then
Jesus'
Joseph
father?
became the husband of Mary.
Right. No problem. So who is Jesus' father? What's the confirmation word for Jesus' father?
It would be begat.
Is it there?
No.
Okay. But the word of is there, right?
Yes, because it's clear who the mother is.
Right. You just exactly. So
It's clear who the mother is on that aspect. And this is what I'm saying on this.
Listen to me
Go ahead.
first.
Go ahead.
Verse 16 was very clear who's Joseph's father. It's not clear of who Jesus' father is, but it's very clear of who's Jesus' mother is. Now, again, so just one more time, use the confirmation word for a father is what?
What do you mean?
Okay.
The
You know,
begat?
okay, good, right? We agree. That's a confirmation word, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hold that and go to Matthew chapter. I'm sorry, hold that and go to John chapter 3.
What chapter? Verse.
16.
Here we are. And for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. John
So
3:16.
what's the confirmation word of a father?
his begotten son.
No, just the
And
word
we have
begotten.
to remember that there's a different version for the carnal father and the spiritual father.
Wait, well, hold on.
He was the
Either-
first spirit that was created, which all of us came from. That's why he's the only begotten. He was the first spirit created by the Father.
I got you, but brother, listen what I'm saying to you. There's a confirmation word of your father. It's going to say begot. So now we got the confirmation word. We don't see it in Matthew 16 for Jesus, but we see it in John 3:16. We see the confirmation word for Jesus' Father. It says God begot his son, Jesus. So the only time we see the word begot for Jesus is not in Matthew 1:16. It's in John 3:16. So it's in 16. It's just not Matthew's. It's in John. So Matthew 1:16 is showing you that there's no confirmation word for Jesus' dad. It preserved it for John 3:16. It said God begot Jesus. So Jacob begot Joseph, God begot Jesus. So now we know Jesus' mother is Mary and his father is God.
That is confusing. Because not once has the Father left the realm to come down to the earth to do anything himself.
Brother, when it says God,
this is why he set the order of things for male and female to make the seed line to be traced down, and all of a sudden it just stopped being the way that he intended.
No, okay. It started off that way. Remember, you said Adam is Jesus, right?
Yes, because he was the first spirit created.
Okay, so go to Luke chapter 3 for me. See, you're helping me out. Thank you. You're helping me help you. Go to Luke 3. Let me know when you're there.
I'm here.
Read verse 38.
Which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God.
Who was Adam's father?
Adam's father was God.
Okay, so we read Jesus' father is God in Luke 3:38, and we also read Jesus' father is God in John 3:16.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the problem?
The problem is you're missing the fact that that's why the reincarnation was there and supposed to be traced by the bloodline in the first place. He was born as Adam. Adam didn't make it, had to be reborn. Noah didn't make it, had to be reborn, and came back as Yahawadah, or who the world calls Jesus.
My brother, who
the spirit was reborn in the flesh because the flesh was preserved through the seed line all the way from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, down to Joseph.
Okay, so
the seed is not in the woman.
Hey, my brother, I'm not arguing that. Do me a favor, read verse 36.
36. Which the son of Canaan, which was the son of Aphrodite, and which was the son of Sem, which was the son of Noah, and which was the son of Lamech.
So Noah's Noah. Who's Noah's father?
No, hold on a second.
It says it right. The last name in 36.
Lamech, yep.
Right, that's his father. Right.
Was his grandfather.
Okay. Brother, what I'm pointing out here is that every man has an earthly father. Every man has an earthly father except for Adam. It tells you who
Adam was made from the ground.
Right,
Adam was made from the dust.
I got it right. So wasn't the Holy Spirit put in his nostrils?
Yes, it was given to him as the breath of life.
And who sent that Holy Spirit into his nostrils?
The Most High.
Right. So that makes him his dad. So who?
The Father.
So,
which would be the father of all of Adam.
Wait, no. Everybody's his adopted son. Right here again, my brother. You're reading the genealogy, and you said that this is everybody's fathers. We established that earlier. Here, Adam, the only father it gives Adam is a spiritual God. The only father that was given to Jesus is a spiritually father. So it's consistent. It's saying Adam had a spiritual father who was Jesus, and it's saying Jesus has a spiritual father. It never changed. God
Jesus
does not
is
change.
not the Father, though. This is why he's worse. He's the son of the Father.
Who?
Adam was the son of the Father. Jesus was the same spirit as Adam, the first created.
Brother,
This
in
is why all the
38,
promises were given to him.
I got it. I got it. But the problem is we're reading the Bible. In 38, who is listed in the you said it's the genealogy. It's a genealogy. Okay. In this genealogy, the recorded record.
We're talking about the
Father.
physical genealogy, right? We're talking about the physical genealogy.
Yes.
And you also have
Yes.
to remember that the spirit is only handed to one genealogy.
Brother.
Which is why Adam was the first spirit, which was the seed line that was carrying it, and then it got separated through Ishmael and all these different tribes, which we would call the heathens and the Gentiles, and it stayed in Israel. And then in Israel, it had to be confined even more down to David, down to Solomon, because that seed line from Adam was still being carried on from Noah and all the descendants afterwards. That's why the genealogy is important, to see who was the ones to inherit that promise that came from Adam, which is why the Messiah would come through that same seed line. He had to be born through the seed line to fulfill the prophecy.
Brother, I don't have no argument. All I'm pointing out is that I established two things with you. I established that the seed line starts with Jesus. It doesn't end with, it starts with Jesus and it ends with Jesus. So it was always
yes, because he was Adam. And this is what I mean by the reincarnation.
Wait, well, hold on.
He was Adam, physical and spiritual.
Brother, you got to slow down. So if the seed line started off spiritual, that's why it ended off spiritual. It started spiritually.
Yes, in Yahawadah. It was not in the woman. It was not in Mary.
So what are we? Okay, so if you agree, the seed line
started, again, if you see that the seed was created in the first one, which was Adam, the man, and it's telling you that everybody after Adam was begot through the son, and the woman was used as the vessel to carry that child, which would be the man, which was now the next one that would be the one that be in the lineage. It went through the seed line. This is what I'm saying. It went down through the seed line all the way. The genealogy is telling you that literally Yahawadah or Jesus comes from Adam. He came from Noah. He came from Shem. He came from Judah. He came from Isaac. He came from Abraham. He followed the lineage all the way down, all the way to Adam. That's why he is the root and the beginning. He's the root and the offspring. Because he was the one that was prophesied all the way before, from Adam's time, when that covenant was first given to Adam. The prophecy was about him.
Okay.
The inheritance that was given to Adam would be given to him through the descendants of what he would be born in as Adam's descendants.
Okay. So I agree with everything you said. Okay. So do you agree that the seed started off spiritual?
The seed started off spiritual, yes, because the spirit existed before anything physical was created.
And then the seed became physical, right?
Yes, the seed became physical after it was put in Adam as the breath of life.
Right. Because Adam had sex, so it became spiritual. And then when it came to Jesus, the seed became spiritual again because no man begot him. It was a spirit who begot him. It was the Lord.
No, the spirit was put into the vessel that had to be put as the conduit here on the earth. And you needed the source of where that original seed line had been through to this is why genetics are expressed. Certain things are expressed through genetics. Like the same thing as if we look at it spiritually, certain things that can be inherited genetically, like heart disease, we can call it a curse, we can call it this and that, but it's the same aspect. It's expressed through your genetics because there was people that were predisposed to have it, which is why you're predisposed to have it. Adam was predisposed to have the spirit of the Most High put in him, and his seed line was predisposed to carry it, which is what made it easier for his rebirth to come back in his own seed line, which is why the brother, when we were talking about and Obed, he had to make a son for his brother, so his brother would have a conduit to come back into from the spirit world. There's a separation between the flesh and the spirit. We're looking at the physical, carnal genealogy. The spirit was already put in through the Father, and that's why he said that the holy seed line would be promised in through the tribes of Israel, which are the descendants directly of Adam. They have the same spirit. But out of them, Judah would be the strongest. Which is why the Messiah would spring form out of Judah, because the genealogy would be strongest going back to her there. It's why Joseph and Mary were cousins. They were both seed line of David. It was a pure unity again. But since in that aspect of when they had the union, it wasn't according to what the customs were, it's not sinful for them to live together. But according to them, where they were going by the Old Testament laws at that point, hey, if this girl ends up pregnant and we haven't given her officially away, she will be stoned. This is why the angel had to warn him and say, do not put her away, because the child that she's carrying is holy. Mary, same thing for you. Your seed is holy. They didn't know why it was holy. Did they know about the fact that the lineage would come down through David, and they were both cousins through David, so that genealogy was right there between both of them to create the perfect union, to receive the spirit that would come back as Yahawadah, or who we call Jesus. This is why the prophecy was written about it. For him to be the root and the offspring, he has to be the beginning and the end.
That's interesting.
In the beginning was the Word, which was the Father, and in his first creation was Yahawadah, the first man, the first spirit.
Yeah, I would love to get your understanding on Matthew 22. Can you go there for me, please?
Matthew chapter 22.
Yeah. Let me know when you're there, brother.
Yep.
Can you look at can you read from 41?
While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked, "Say, what think of ye Christ? Whose son is he?" They say unto him, "The son of David."
Who?
He saith unto them.
Wait, slow down. When you read this word of the Bible, every word is true. Okay, so when he asked them, he said, "Who do you think the Christ is? Whose son is he?" So he's asking these people, who do they think the son of Christ is? And what was their answer?
They said the son of David.
Okay, so now who is he asking? What people is he asking?
The Pharisees, the leader of Israel at that point.
Right. Now, were they carnal or spiritual?
They were carnal.
Right. So they give a carnal answer. They say, he's the son of David.
Yes, because, right? Yep. Proves my point, which is they only saw him as the son of David because of the lineage.
Right.
They couldn't see him as the spiritual, the son of the Father.
Right. No problem. Read verse 45. Because Jesus got a question for them.
If David then called him Lord, how is he his son?
So hold on. So Jesus got a problem with that. All right. He got a problem with that whole "I'm the son of David" thing. So he countered. Jesus countered. He didn't say, "Okay, you guys are correct. Bless you guys." He countered with, if he's the son of David, then how does David call him Lord if he's the son? Can you explain what that means? What Jesus was getting to?
Because David was aware of the prophecy.
Now I'm saying, so what point was Jesus
making about the Messiah?
So what point was Jesus making when he said, how is the Christ the son of David if David calls him Lord? What was his point that you could believe in that, the lesson?
That David, like I just said, David knew about the prophecy that would come about the Messiah coming out of his loins.
Well, do you think the Pharisees knew that? Because you said the Pharisees say he was the son of David. So did they know that?
They knew that also.
Okay, so they should have.
They refused to acknowledge. That's the thing, They refused to acknowledge his position.
No. Read verse 46.
And no man was able to answer him a word, Neither durst a man from any day forth ask him any more questions.
Right. So for some of us who read the Bible in plain English, with just a fifth grade reading comprehension, we understand that to believe the Pharisees were confused. And they said, wow, that's a good question. So when you see how Jesus engaged with the Pharisees, he always confound them. Always. He always asks them questions they can't answer. And when they ask him questions that they think is difficult, he always answered those questions very easily. When they came to him with the 7 wives of the brother, they thought they had him, but Jesus answered that so easily. So every time Jesus asked them a question, they never really answer it. But when they ask him a question that they think is difficult, he always answered it very easily. So what's your breakdown on that?
He answered it the way he was supposed to. He acknowledged the fact that he was the offspring and the root with that phrase. That's why David called him Lord, because David knew of his coming before.
Right. So the question goes to you now. If he's the root of David and the offspring, how is he David's son? Will he be also David's father?
Not in that direct sense.
Okay, so
If we say son of David, that means that this person just came from the lineage of David.
Okay, hold on.
This is why they're confused and they can't acknowledge him as the Heavenly Father's son, because they see him as a man's son, right, which was on the earth.
But brother, if he's the father, don't you agree he's the father of David also?
If you want to go into specific cases where he was born as certain people, yes.
So he's also the father of
Solomon.
David.
He was Solomon.
Okay, so then watch this. So if he's also the father of David, then why did they only call him the son of David and never the father of David?
What was that?
Hmm?
You said what?
Okay. We agree that he's also the father of David, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the spirit, not the physical.
Okay, well, God is your father in the spirit, not the physical, right?
Yes.
Okay, so which one matters most? To be a spiritual father or a physical father?
The spiritual father matters.
Okay, cool. So now it's back to the question. If they also know that he's a spiritual, this get rid of spiritual and physical, because what we know is this: we know that he's the son of David. He's also the father of David. But they kind of, what I'm getting to you, brother, is that they're disrespecting him by only calling him the son of David. Right. They're disrespecting.
Which is them straightforward ignoring the aspect of the prophecy of him to come way before David was even there.
Brother, so we agree. We agree that when they call him that, they're disrespecting him, right? Because they're not acknowledging who he actually is, because they won't say that. Like when he spoke to the woman at Jacob's well, he didn't like how she was talking to him. He said, ma'am, if you know who I was, you'll be treating me a little differently. So he got the disrespect. So go to Mark chapter 6, please. Let me know when you're there. So read verse 3. Read verse 3.
Verse 3?
Yep.
Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, and Joseph, and Judah, and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us?
Right. So they also disrespected him. They keep demoting him as though he's just this measly man, like everybody else, born in sin, subjected to all evils. You dig? They keep disrespecting him. So now read verse 4. Now look how Jesus took that. Read verse 4.
But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house.
Okay. So he didn't respect that, right? So Jesus said, so after they said that about him, he said a prophet is, so basically paraphrasing, he said, yo, these guys are disrespecting me. Like they don't honor who I actually am.
They don't know who I am, so they're not going to treat me accordingly. Is pretty much what he's doing at that point.
Brother,
If you don't know that this is my kingdom, you're not going to treat me as the king that I am.
Right. So look, what I'm saying is this. He felt disrespected that they kept calling him the son of a carpenter, the son of Joseph, he felt disrespected, right? Son of David, he felt disrespected.
It's the same thing Israelites doing today. Sunning people,
right.
when we
call
people sons.
I got you.
It's the same aspect. You know what I'm saying?
But brother,
the same aspect.
I'm just dealing with, listen, Romans 1:16 says, I am not ashamed of the gospel. So let's not be ashamed of the gospel. Let's just be real. Jesus felt disrespected when they called him the son of David, the son of Joseph, the son of whoever, because he felt like they're putting him on a low level man level, right? A carnal man. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So the people who acknowledge him as the son of God and not the son of man, the son of Joseph, the son of carpenter, son of David, how did he normally treat them that actually called him the son of God? How did he treat them afterwards?
Like, he should be good.
He normally
treated everybody.
No,
the people with the Pharisees
saying,
that he just went at towards.
Brother, I'm asking a frank question. It's like straightforward. When certain Jews acknowledge him as the son of God, didn't he treat them a little better than anybody else?
Yeah.
Right, because he wanted his respect, right?
Because he knew who would serve him in his kingdom.
Right, no, but I'm saying he wanted his respect of who he actually is, not how he looks, not what it seems to be, but not what it appears to be. He wanted his respect of actually who he is, correct?
Yep.
Okay, go to Hebrews chapter 2. Watch this. Hebrews 2. Let me know when you're there.
Give me a second.
Because I think this is really going to help you in the spiritual, which is spirituality. This right here, I promise.
Chapter 2, verse what?
Okay, can you read? Well, hold on. My screen just blanked out. Give me 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, Hebrews 2 and 9, please.
Before we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God should not taste death for every man.
So when it said, but we see Jesus, who was made just a little lower than an angel, what does that mean to you? Angels are indestructible, right? They can't die.
Yeah. He was born in a fleshly body.
Right. So right. But it's saying like he was damn near, he's the closest thing to an angel, right?
Yes.
Right. So there's no two people on earth who can have sex and have a child who's the closest thing to an indestructible angel. Only the hand of God can produce something like that. Do you understand now?
Tell me. So where do you think? All right.
Yeah, that was deep.
Going back to this, where I see this is where it says we see Jesus who was made lower than the levels of the angel, as in he was born in a human body, first to die just like the rest of us, which is why he would take our sins, because he knew that he was spiritually above that level, but he had to take that.
Brother, made is physical. There's nothing spiritual about made, because Galatians 4:4 he said he was a made of a woman. So we know that
Yes, because he was born of a woman in a fleshly body.
Right. Listen what I'm saying, my
If
brother.
he was born as an Adam before Adam got everything stripped away from him,
Exactly.
that would have been different. That would have been
No.
different, where Adam was
Listen.
directly made from the dust and given the spirit of life.
Right. So let me ask you
He
this.
had to be born of a woman, same as
Wait.
everybody else on the earth.
Right. I got you. Right. I agree. Of a woman.
And for that to happen, there's no other place for that to happen. But even on that is the union of the seed line with a unique case.
My brother, I think. Wait, are you part of what church you in? Are you Catholic?
I don't go to churches anymore. I read the Bible like I do for colleges that people would for textbooks.
So are you part of like an institution or a group?
No.
That's the problem.
I just read the Bible.
Right, my brother. That's the
problem. I read
the
Bible with like-minded people.
No, my brother. The Bible says to go form a communion, right? You need other people to build to fellowship with, because
I have a community of people that I fellowship with, but not a church, as in where I go to and get taught
the
by
church
somebody
is the
else
body of
is
people,
what they're telling me.
Right, but the church means people. That's all it means. It means a body of people coming together.
Okay, so if the church means the body of people, that means every reference to the church in the book would be talking about the body of Israel, the children of Israel.
Brother, listen.
Right?
No, the church just means people coming together. That's it. In the name of Christ, by the way.
Oh, that's one thing I was going to ask you. When we went over that John 3:16, what is your belief behind John 3:16?
Just as
where it says he died for the whole world.
Yeah, he died for the whole world, just like that.
Does that include the heathens, the
yeah,
Gentiles,
of course,
the pagans? Does that include Esau?
Yes. Read 1:6. Go to Romans 1:16. That answers your question.
Because when we look at the accordance for the word world,
yeah,
it's cosmos. And the Most High said that he made a certain
what chapter and verse? What chapter and
blue
verse?
Blue letter. I'm saying the definition for the world in John 3:16.
Put your guard down, Mayweather. I'm asking you, what chapter and verse are you referencing?
John 3:16.
Okay.
I'm just covering for the reference of the definition of the word world back then was changed from cosmos.
Right. You got to slow down because you mentioned other things. That's why I said slow down. Okay, so let me get that for you.
I mean, it might be just how I talk.
No problem.
But I said John 3:16 and in the cosmos definition.
All right, so let's
get. It was referring to Israel. That's why he came for the elect, the lost sheep of Israel, not the world. He came for the 12 tribes of Israel.
Brother, relax. Okay. Is that true? All right. Well, do me a favor. Okay, since you said that, right? Okay, so
the other nations will have the form after Israel's kingdom is established after the 1,000-year rule.
Okay, so I got something for you.
The initial salvation is only for the 12 tribes, not for the world.
So, but you realize that it was to the Jew first and then the Greek second, right?
The Greeks were also Israelites that were calling themselves Greeks, just like we are black people in America calling ourselves American.
Wait, so the
we're
Greeks
Israelites in America calling ourselves American.
Wait, hold on. Let's slow down. So you said the Greeks were also the Israelites, right?
Yes, that's why Peter got confused. Also the same thing as the Egyptians.
So I'm gonna give you
those were dark-skinned people at that time.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a chapter and verse, okay? Because you said that. Okay, go to Acts 7:45. Since you're saying that now, so you're going somewhere else. Because I was going to meet you with the world stuff, but since you're saying the Greeks are,
I mean, if we're going to go back to the definition of that, we can cover one thing at a time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But you made a statement that I have to challenge because, matter of fact, not there, because yes, skip that. Don't go there because that doesn't support what I'm saying about what you just said. Because you said Greeks, right? You said Greeks, right? You said Greeks are the Israelites, right?
Greeks were Israelites living outside of Israel, not according to the laws. This is why they were told to go to Greece and convert them too.
Wait, hold on. Somebody just called in.
These were Israelites outside of the land of Israel that were not living according to the laws. They were living according to the Grecians' laws.
Brother, 1 second. Somebody just called in. Hello? Who just called in? Hello? I gotta make sure we don't have a scoffer. Hello?
How you good?
Hi, it's LJ.
Oh, how you doing, brother? Where you from?
I'm from England.
Okay, good. Nice to meet you. Were you? What do you what do you have to add to what we're talking about? We're talking about salvation. Who is it for? Is it for just Israel, or the actual Gentiles and Greeks? The brother said Greeks in the New Testament is talking about Israel. What do you have to add to that?
Well, I obviously I disagree with that. I think that Gentiles are Gentiles, and
But the brother said
when
the brother said, "Hey, brother, repeat that again about the
Is,
Gentiles."
is salvation for the Gentiles?
yeah, I mean it tells us in the Old Testament and the New Testament that Gentiles can be grafted in, and we have perfect examples of Gentiles being grafted into Israel.
Grafted into Israel, and now the
Yeah.
grafting is based on who? It's carried by the seed line, right?
The grafting, no,
You
it
don't get
couldn't be.
grafted in because the
No, it
grafting
can't be
in is
grafted
talking
in
about
based on
Israel
the
after
seed
not following the
line,
laws,
because the
where they were
seed line,
instructed to not
yeah,
mix with the
the seed
Gentiles.
the
They
seed
did
line
that,
would
which is
always
why
be the
you're
seed
bringing in the
line, so they
Gentiles into
wouldn't
the
need
fold.
grafting in. So it would have to be those that are not Israel that are grafted in order for them to be grafted into the seed line, because it's those that are counted as in faith that are the children of Abraham, not the children
Because
of
they're
the
counted as
flesh.
dogs, less than spittle.
So the
Esau
children,
definitely has no part in the salvation because Esau has a special end for him, which is what the whole Obadiah, the
well,
book of Obadiah, talks about. And this
Esau
is why
was
it's so
allowed
short.
into the congregation Esau was allowed into the congregation at the third generation.
Esau was cut off ever since Genesis because the Most High established his hate for Esau.
But in
Which is
Deuteronomy,
why
in the
Esau would be the
law,
end of the world
they
and
can
Jacob
come
would be the
into the
beginning of it
congregation of the.
thereafterwards.
So Esau and an Egyptian can come into the congregation of the Lord on the third generation.
How about the Moabites?
But we're not talking about the Moabites. We're talking about
They are
you
part of
just
the heathen Gentile group. They are outside of
you
Israel.
refer
They count as the heathens
right.
and Gentiles.
You
All the
referred
nations
to
outside of Israel count as the
Esau.
heathens.
Right. You just said that Esau cannot come in, and I'm showing you and I can tell you by the law that Esau can come into the into the congregation of the Lord after the third generation, and that's
Where
in
do
the
we
law.
find that? Because as far as I know, reading through all the judgments based upon Esau, Edom,
Okay, so that's
that
in
his seed line shall
Deuteronomy
be cut off from all face of the earth.
Deuteronomy
He
23:8.
shall go and receive the same thing that he's done to his brother Jacob. He shall receive that recompense on his head.
Right. So you can either address the verse that I've just stated. So it's
Which verse?
Deuteronomy 23:8.
Deuteronomy 23:8. All right. Okay.
So it's 23:7
Children that
and
begot of them shall
23:8.
enter the congregation of the Lord the third. Oh, let's say right here.
Right. So it's verse 7 and verse 8. Verse 7 tells you that it is an Edomite and an Egyptian who can enter into the assembly of the Lord on the third generation.
Are they following it? So to do that, they would have to recognize who the Most High is, right? They would have to recognize Israel and also serve the Most High Yahweh, right?
Of course, anybody that enters and anybody that becomes A child of God has to follow God, of course.
Not everybody is a child of God. That is apparent when it tells you that the children of Israel are the children of God. This is why everybody would have to be grafted in, as you said, right?
Right. So it
So not
tells,
everybody is a child
the
of
New
God.
Testament, Testament tells us that we can become children of God through the adoption through Jesus Christ.
This is the people that were not in the fold before, the lost sheep. Now, this is why he also makes the reference to Israel being scattered like a speckled bird. There was a point in time where he told Israel to not mix with any of the other nations to keep the line pure. Now they started going in. This is what caused the confusion of faces for the wheat and the tares.
Right. The law tells you that if they were to take, they were not allowed to take wives from other nations. The other nations would have to come into Israel first, and they would have to accept the Most High and become part of the covenant. Then they could take them, but they weren't allowed to just take the wives and husbands of those of other nations while they hadn't come in to the congregation and accepted the Lord.
If they were not under the laws. Yep.
Right. Okay. But they were allowed to do that if those that had come in from other nations had basically converted and chosen to follow God. So that shows that those from other nations can come into Israel, and they can
those other nations would
saved.
be the seed line that has been scattered, and they would not be seen as Israelites. If you're not living by the law, according to it, you wouldn't count as a Jew, because Jew is only short for Judah.
We're not talking about those that have been scattered. We're talking about other nations, the people of other nations, that they could come in as long as they were following the Lord and had basically converted to become part of Israel. Ruth became part of Israel. She lived with.
She married an Israelite man.
So,
she married an Israelite man.
Right. So she was a non-Israelite who married an Israelite man, and she became Israel. We also have Rahab, who became Israel, and she lived with Israel.
You can't become Israel. Israel is a seed line.
No. You can become part of the congregation of Israel. You can become
to Israel's laws.
Right. So
which is why she would not count as an Israelite, but her son would, because she had a child.
What tribe was Caleb from?
Through her.
What tribe
Judah.
What tribe was Caleb from?
Caleb?
Yeah.
What tribe?
Yeah. What tribe was he from?
I'm asking you, what tribe?
He was from the tribe of Judah, yeah? But he was a Canaanite.
Okay, which side of his family was the Canaanite, though?
Well, if he's called something and you will assert that you are what your father is, then his father would have been a Canaanite.
This is what I'm saying, because the land of Canaan was at that time a place where people were calling themselves after the land.
No, not a Canaanite.
The original Canaanites were
Canaanite.
descendant of people. Canaanites were descendant of people.
Right, you're
the land of Canaan.
Not a Canaanite, a Canaanite.
Canaanite?
Yes.
Oh, I was like confused over the accent. My bad. Canaanite. I was gonna say, how is Caleb part of Judah and Canaan?
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't a Canaanite. He was a. Is it a Canaanite or is it Kenizzite? Kenizzite. So if you are what your father if you are what your father is, then his father would have been a Kenizzite, yeah?
They would have to be an Israelite.
How can he? So how is Caleb called a Kenizzite?
You established that Caleb was from Judah, right?
he was, yes, he was called from the tribe of Judah, but he's also called a Kenizzite. So how is he called a Kenizzite?
That doesn't change the fact that he's still a Judite. Just like
So how is
Messiah,
how is he
who
a
we call
Ken,
Jesus,
how is he a
was called a
Kenizzite?
Nazarite, but he was still a Judite.
Right. So he was so in Numbers 32:12, Caleb was the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite. So his father was a Kenizzite. So how, if you are what your father is, and you cannot become an Israelite, and you cannot, how is Caleb called from the tribe of Judah when his father is a Kenizzite?
We have to look what the Kenizzites are.
Right. So it's a number. So if you go to the Kenizzites, what the Kenizzites are actually, they are one of the tribes of the Canaanites that had inhabited the land that was promised to Abraham. So you need to go to Numbers 32:12. That will give you that Caleb was the son of.
Yep.
Yeah, Numbers 32. 32:12.
Yep. Unsurely none of the men that came up out of Egypt, 24 and 20 years old, shall be in the land swearing to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, because they have wholly followed me. Save Caleb. They were telling you that he's an exception. Save Caleb.
Right.
Caleb
Right.
is an exception.
Okay. In this
because
time,
all the other ones that were mentioned here were direct lines that came from Israel through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right. Right.
Save
But
for Caleb, who was there
right.
holy because he followed the Lord.
Right.
That doesn't make him an Israelite, though.
But you just said that he was a tribe of. You just said that he was the tribe of Judah. We've established that he is of the tribe of Judah.
I asked you that, and then you turned it into him being part of the Kenizites.
Right. So he is a Kenizzite, but he is also of the tribe of Judah. Is he not of the tribe of Judah?
If he was adopted into Judah, but that doesn't make him bloodline descendant of Judah.
Right, but he is of the tribe of Judah, yeah? So you can be adopted into Israel. So that would that not show that you can be adopted into Israel?
Yes, you can be adopted into Israel.
Right, so you can become part of
conversion. Right. This is why we have the modern day people, the synagogue of Satan, pertaining to Revelation 2 and 12, calling themselves Jews but are not.
Right. Okay, but you said that it is only salvation is only for the 12 tribes of Judah.
Because the promise that was given from Adam all the way down was given only to the seed line of Israel.
Right.
The converts will not get that salvation unless
you've
again
just
where it
agreed
talks about the
that you can become Israel. You've agreed that you can become Israel through adoption.
Let's break it down real quick. The salvation is going for who? The elect, right?
Right. I agree with that.
And the elect come from where?
The elect,
there's
through Christ.
Of the 12, they're going to be 12,000 of the 12 tribes.
No, that's got nothing to do with salvation. That's got nothing to do with salvation. The 144,000 has got nothing
of the salvation.
No, the
140 of the salvation.
Right, the 144,000 are the ones that go out and preach to Israel, the Christ. Okay, that's got nothing to do with who is saved. That's not who is. That's just the 144,000. They are going to
be the governing body in the established kingdom with under Yahawadah and the throne of King David. That's got
nothing to do with who can be saved.
This is what I'm saying. The elect are going to be the men of Israel first.
Right.
The adoption of the 1/3 will be
but
women
we're not talking
and children.
I've got no problem, and I wouldn't disagree that it is to the Jew first, right, and then to the Gentile. But what we're arguing is whether the Gentiles are Israel or whether they are non-Israelites. And I've just shown you that Caleb. I've just shown you Caleb is a non-Israelite who was adopted into Israel.
And there's a lot of Israelites that are living like heathens, so they count as heathens and or Gentiles.
Right. And I have no
under the law.
I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't argue against those Israelites who would be bloodline Israelites. So regardless of how they're living, would still be classified as Israelites. Okay, whether they're cut off or not is another thing, but they're still classified as Israelites, and that's why you Jesus says, don't think, John says, don't think that just because you have Abraham as your father, right? Because if you're not in Christ, then you're going to be regardless of who you are, you will be cut off.
Yes, exactly. Which is why Israel shouldn't be cocky about it, because just because they're born of Israel doesn't make their automatic salvation. They have to have the faith in the Messiah.
Of course.
This is why there's parameters to be
what we're saying. The argument isn't whether Israel can be saved, whether the 12 tribes of Israel are the elect. What the argument is, and the argument it wouldn't even be that those Israelites who are not living as godly cannot be brought back in. What I'm arguing is that the Gentiles who are non-Israelites, they can be included through Christ. And in the Old Testament, just as I have shown with Caleb, the adoption is available for non-Israelites to become part of Israel. They're not bloodline Israelites, but they do become Israelites.
You cannot become an Israelite. You can worship under Israel. Israel is a bloodline.
So why is Caleb?
This is what I'm saying. Israel is a bloodline. People can convert after the laws have been established back on the land through the coming of the second coming. But the first for the salvation, the first fruits will be the elect.
Tribe of Judah. Why is Caleb classified as the tribe of Judah?
Just like I was telling him earlier, or the host earlier, it's the same thing as Israelites living in America today, calling themselves Negro, African American, Black, colored, and or American.
You're repeating yourself, but you're not answering any question. Right, you're repeating yourself, which is fine.
The law does not apply,
but you're not
to them
answering
until
the
they
question.
convert.
So, can you explain to me how Caleb, right, is classified as the tribe of Judah if you cannot become Israel?
Where is Caleb classified as the tribe of Judah?
Right. So Caleb is called the tribe of Judah in Joshua 15:13.
Joshua 16.
Sorry. Numbers 13:6. He's Numbers 13:6. Sorry.
See, this is a different Caleb.
No,
of the tribe of
no,
Judah,
it's not.
Caleb, the son of Jephunneh.
Right. That's what which I just showed you.
And Jephunneh would be the Kenizzite, right?
No, he was the Canaanite, or the Kenizzite. Sorry.
Or Kenizzite or Kenizzite.
The Kenizzite. Yeah, in Numbers 32:12, I just literally showed you. Save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite. Here he is referred to as, of the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. This is the same Caleb.
So what was Kenizzite? Kenizzite, was that a location? Or was that
the Kenizzites? Yeah, the Kenizzites were one of the tribes that were in the land that was given to Abraham before it was given to him. So that's in Genesis 15:18. In the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham. This is before he became Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Raphaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. Those are the ones that were living in the land at the time.
In the land Canaan. Yep.
Okay, so the Kenizzites were non-Israelites. Caleb is classified as being both.
My point I was bringing up specifically was where you're saying everybody can come in, but Obadiah has a pretty big chapter about what would happen strictly to Esau at the end time near salvation.
I mean, I can show you verses
where Obadiah right now.
I just specifically wanted to bring up one person and deal with that one person. How that one person. I mean, we can go to other verses and show about and argue about
because that
other
one person.
people. I'm just interested in this one person at the moment.
And cover Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1.
Right, but we need to deal with this first. So are you
Obadiah talking about the generations outside of Israel and the things that are going to pertain to them, especially concerning Edom.
Right. Okay.
Right? It says the vision of Obadiah says to the Lord concerning Edom. We have heard the rumor of the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou hast dwellest in the crest of the rocks, which was Esau, whose habitation is high. That saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Verse 4. Thou shalt exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thy nest be set among the stars, then shall I bring thee down. If these came to thee, if by robbers by night, how would thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers came unto thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid in wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Shall I not in this day, said the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Esau and their understanding out of the mount of Esau? Verse 9. O mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed. At the end of every one of the mount of Esau shall be cut off by slaughter. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. Thou shalt be cut off forever. In the day thou stoodest on the other side, in the day of the strangers carried away captives, his force and foreigners entered through his gates, and thou cast lots upon Jerusalem, even though was as one of them, but thou should not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither should thou rejoice over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither should thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. This is all concerning Edom.
Right.
And if we are aware who the Israelites are today, you said that after the third generation, they can come in there. But 2 verses up there, I just read that the children of Edom shall be cut off forever.
Right. Okay. So, what we need to do is understand that those that are born as a Gentile, such as Caleb, okay, when they come in to the congregation, they are now classified as the tribe that they are living with. So they become Israel. So I agree with you 100%. Those that continue on living as an Edomite.
This is outside of Esau, because Esau has a special punishment for him. This is the other nations outside of Esau.
Right. Okay. So no, because the Edomites can come into the congregation after the 3rd generation. So those that continue on living as Edomites and not coming in under Israel and not becoming partakers of the inheritance, I will 100% agree with you. But those that are Edomites, that come in under the Lord, and that they can do from the third generation, as well as the Egyptians, they then become Israel. They become part
As
of
you
the
said,
congregation,
they're
and they can
living
be
as
saved.
Edomites, right? You just said yourself, if they continue to live as
If they
Edomites, right?
continue, that is the same as every other nation. If you do not
Yep.
come in under Christ, you are not saved.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Right.
I'm just trying to make a specific point here, which is why I was bringing up the aspect before that most of these people will be speckled birds mixed in among the nations that are Israelites, especially in Edom, because all of Edom is to be cut off. All of
No.
Edom. Let me read that again. Let me read that again. Hold on. Let me read that again.
That have not those that have not passed over and come to partake with the Lord.
Do you know who the Edomites are today?
Well, your lot like to say that they're the white people, but
I mean, like, it goes back. There's actual genealogy to show you the genealogy of Esau, which would be the precursor to the Roman Empire.
Right.
Esau still uses the eagle as his symbol.
Yeah, but there are hundreds of countries in this world that actually use an eagle as a symbol.
And the
so
countries were colonized by a specific group of colonizers that use the eagle as their reference.
Right, but that's irrelevant. But that's irrelevant to those that are coming in to Christ.
It's not. It's relevant because, again, this is why when Christ came the first time, the same conditions that were going on, he said it would be happening again.
Right. The Ephesians 3:6, that the Gentiles should be fellow heirs and of the same body and partakers of his promise in Christ by the gospel. The Gentiles, they can come in as well to Israel.
That's after the 1,000-year establishment of the kingdom. But guess what? You're missing the whole part of where we're going to be using, where the Israelites are going to have the other nations as handmaids.
Yeah, this is
those that we serve, they shall serve us.
Yeah, and that's a complete misunderstanding that's a complete misunderstanding of what was stated in Revelation. But let's deal with
no, because it says that the first shall be the last. It's not just in Revelation. The promise is talking about how Israel would be the bottom of their society in this world. And when the kingdom is established, they would be the top. All the other heathen nations would be under them in the rightful order.
I would be happy to discuss with you at another time about whether or not the other nations are going to come in and serve Israel. But that, whether they do or not, they still can participate in
because the Bible tells you those that do not serve Israel shall be utterly wasted.
And we'll see, and I'm happy to discuss that. But what we're discussing right now is whether the Gentiles can be partakers of the promise. I've shown you Caleb. I've shown you that the
Esau does not count as the Gentiles. The Gentiles count as the other nations outside of Edom and Israel, because Israel and Edom.
Well, the Canaanites are not part of Edom.
The Canaanites are mixed with Edom too.
The Canaanites.
The Canaanites.
Right.
Or are you talking about the Kenizzites?
I'm talking about the Kenizzites. Yeah, Caleb is a Kenizzite, right? Okay, so he is literally called of the tribe of Judah, but he is not. His father is not of Judah, and that is how those that are not part of Israel physically, right, can become part of Israel. Although they are not blood lineage, they become part of Israel. And then when you go to First Chronicles, chapter 2, you will see that Caleb is included in the lineage there. Because he is classified, actually, I may be wrong there. I think I may be wrong. Let me check, because that might be that Caleb there, I'm sure. Chapter 2. let me just make sure that I've got myself correct now. He is classified, I'm sure, as the son.
You remember the Bible has a table of 18 nations. One of them has to be the rulers of the position.
Yeah, no, I'm Caleb. Caleb is now. He is in the lineage, and he is classified in that lineage as being the son of Hezron. Through adoption, he is classified as the son of Hezron.
All right, back to Obadiah, where I was talking about, because this also brings in parts of the other nations. After it talks about what's going on with Esau, neither is thou stood in the crossway cut off those.
You're not actually. Obadiah. I'm not arguing with you though. I'm not arguing on that point at all.
No, I'm just gathering a point. I'm just
those that are not in Christ, those that are not Christ will be cut. They will be destroyed. I fully agree with that. I have no problem with that.
But the salvation goes to the first fruits.
Right.
The first fruits would be first the salvation to get first pick, first draft from Yahawadah himself upon his return will be the 144,000 Israelites and the righteous 1/3 of Israel, especially here in the land of Babylon. Yeah.
No. All right, let's go.
That's why they're seen as the first fruit, and they were the same 1/3 that followed him in the wilderness.
All right, so Revelation.
When Moses was setting the laws.
Revelation.
The other 2/3 said, let. They were the same ones that responded, say, crucify him, let the blood be upon our children.
All right. So
it was the same 2/3.
Let's go and read that in context.
And even then, the Most High does not want to save 2/3 of his own people. That's why he said there's an elect of Israel.
Okay, so 140, Revelation 7, 144,000 sealed. Okay, let's start at verse 4. And I heard a number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of Israel. And then it lists the 12 tribes, and it's 12,000 from each of them. And that goes from verse 5 to verse 8. But then, straight after, in verse 9, because you can't ignore verse 9, because it comes after verse 8 and is part of the context. After this, after the 12,000 from each tribe, and after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes. So it's not just 144,000.
No, it's not just that's why I said the 144,000 are chosen to be the governing body under King David.
But now we have
who we call Jesus. This is what I'm saying. There's more to it. Though that's also the mixed multitude is talking about the mixed people of Israel that were, let's say, 300 years ago. I went to China and had children with a Chinese woman, a Moabite woman. My child grows up and has children with the people of that area. Over time, they will eventually look like the people there. They will speak the language there.
Right.
If they don't come back to their original roots. So when this salvation comes down, there will be Israelites mixed in among the heathens. This is why he refers to them as the speckled bird, the wheat and the tares analogy. They'll be mixed in it, but they will have to be sifted. And how will he know is be based on their faith. And the faith is only given to the Israelites because they were given the covenant. Everybody else will adopt it.
Right.
But it starts with the head tribe of Judah first.
But in no way am I arguing that the Israelites are not the ones are not blood Israelites. What I'm arguing is regarding the Gentiles, non-Israelite Gentiles who can become Israel, part of Israel.
But you're talking about the mixed multitude right after the 144,000 are sealed. That's talking about the mixed multitude of Israelites that have been called the confusion of faces through the book.
No. It doesn't say anything about. It says nothing about them being Israelites here. Nothing about them being Israelites in verse 9.
There's other precepts to show you that. And this is why the Messiah told you he came down for the lost sheep first, priority.
Right. But then
Go
he
out and teach
also, after
your
his
kin,
resurrection,
your fellow
in
men that are in other nations that are outside of this law.
Matthew 28:19, he literally sends out his disciples to the people that he said don't go to before he died. When he was resurrected, he now said,
Because there's
now
people
go
mixed
to
in
the
there
other nations, okay, to the ethne
telling the
who
truth.
he had said don't go to. Now he tells them to go to. Matthew 28:19 directly tells them to go to the people that he said don't go to.
Because the word is only going to reach who it's supposed to reach.
It's meant
And only
to reach
certain
all of
spirits were
those,
made to receive this word.
right? But
Which
that's
is why all the prophets were killed in all the lands they went to preach.
And I have no
This is why they
problem
all
with what you're
feared also going to these lands, because they knew that their life would be threatened just by going to speak these words. They were going to seek the lost sheep, because out of there they knew that there was a threat of the people that were preaching in that land. They did not like them, but the message was to reach the people that were confused about who they were in that land.
Right.
Go out and teach these people, because they think they are a different people, but this word is for them.
Right.
They're going to make their own separation once they hear the word.
That you're changing the meaning of what Jesus said. Jesus said, do not go to the ethne. Right. Then he tells them to go to the ethne. He says he's only come for the lost sheep of Israel. Do not go to the ethne, which is the Gentiles. All right. And
The adoptions pertaining to the flesh. I got to put that up. That line just popped up in my head.
Which are the Gentiles. Which are the Gentiles.
Pertaining to the flesh. Why is my thing so slow? Because again, where it talks about the adoption, it talks about the kin, and then pertaining to him in the flesh, which means they share the same flesh.
Right.
So
I have no, like I say, I have no problem with what you're stating. What the argument is whether the Gentiles can come into Israel or not.
They cannot become Israel. They can be adopted the law. They can adopt the law, but they cannot be Israel. Israel is an identity. Israel is a people. They cannot be Israelite. You can't be a Canaanite and then say, I'm an Israelite now. Your genetics don't automatically change because your ideals change.
So is Caleb not classified as an Israelite, even though he's from the tribe of Judah?
Where is this? Romans 9:4.
Right. No.
This is where it talks
I
about
really want to just deal
with
Caleb, because you're trying to you're
brought up
moving
Caleb.
the
We're
goalposts.
talking about a whole bigger scale. You're bringing up one person. We're talking
right,
about a
because
bigger
that
scale
one
of the
person
grand scheme of
proves what you're.
salvation.
I'm focusing on that one person rather than chasing around the Bible, because you're not dealing with that one person who I'm
How
showing.
How are you supposed to prove the points in the Bible? You're told to go from precept to precept.
Right.
Here a little,
there a little.
You
completely misunderstood precept for precept, but that's by not by. What I'm showing you is that what you are asserting is factually and biblically incorrect.
And if you read Romans 9:4, it tells you who that adoption was going to. Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and in the glory and the covenant and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises. That's Romans 9:4.
The adoption
is for the flesh. The people that were
for the flesh,
these were people that were outside of the land of Israel.
Through that.
They did not have these laws with them.
No, the adoption
they had
has
to
to
learn
be
these laws to come into the fold.
Right.
And a lot of these people were Israelites residing outside the land, among heathen nations, living like the heathens.
Right. So can we go back and deal with the one person that we can show directly, one person, rather than going around and showing you different passages of different people in the nations coming into, like the Egyptians who left with Israel as the mixed multitude that left with Israel at the Exodus. Let's just deal with Caleb, because he directly disproves everything that you're trying to say. This one person alone directly disproves you and everything that you've tried to assert.
That the
He is
salvation is
not.
for the Israelites.
He is not. No, 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 no. I agree with you
Because that's what
that
I've been
that
trying to get
salvation is
through.
for the Israelites. Salvation is for Israel, and but what I'm showing you, what I have shown you, is that Caleb is a non-Israelite who becomes Israel.
He got the benefits of being with Israel and following the laws of Israel.
Right.
That does not make
So
him
those
become
that
Israel.
so those non-Israelites who join with Israel could become Israel. They are not blood, but they are Israel. They are classified as Israel. And Caleb, who
The
was a
same thing as the Most
non-Israelite,
High saying that any of
lived
Israelites
with
that join
Israel
onto the
and was
heathen
given
nations
a
shall catch their
tribe.
punishment.
He was even given a
It's the same
tribe. He is the
aspect.
tribe of Judah.
Look at it like this, where it works in both ways. If you go against the Most High and do the things of the heathens, and you are an Israelite, you will catch the punishment of the heathens.
Fully
If
agree.
you are a heathen
Fully
and
agree.
you adopt the laws of the Israelites and you live like the Israelites, you will get the benefits.
Right. Okay.
That doesn't make
So
the person an Israelite.
right, but Gentiles can be saved then.
They will get the benefits of the salvation, but the salvation is not for them.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
But they are grafted in,
They're
and
grafted
they are
in
saved.
because they will get benefits of the salvation, which is for Israel, but it bleeds down to them. It's not for
Right.
them. That covenant wasn't given to them. It was given only to Israel.
Right.
And part of the covenant was the salvation.
Right.
Because that's why the Most High says, I am the God of Israel, not the God of everybody else. I am your God, Israel. Everybody will serve you, and you serve me. I created you to rule over the nations. But for a certain point in time,
Right.
you don't want to follow my law, so now I will punish you, like Deuteronomy 28. You shall go into servitude amongst the nations.
So you agree with what we're saying is that the Gentiles can be saved.
Saying the same thing over and over. You cannot change your genetics to become an Israelite. You can get the benefits of worshiping under the Israelites.
Right, but you can be
that doesn't mean the
classified.
salvation is for you.
But you can be classified
And
as
the only
an
people
Israelite.
that will get the salvation that are looking like the heathens are mixed multitude of Israelites that have been in there and they chose to take the word.
So those that are
That
non-Israelites,
doesn't pertain to them. They are not part of the adoption. They are not part of the promises. It wasn't given to them.
so those
The Most High didn't say, I gather up all the nations, all 18 nations, and I'm going to give them all part of the blessing that Israel gets. No, he said everybody has their inheritance. Israel's going to get left out until the end of the story.
Right. So we're in agreement that those that are non-Israelites can be grafted in and can be classified as Israel. They are not blood.
And the
They are not blood.
is them being converted. Again,
right.
Just like Amalek converted
through Christ
and
through
identity
Christ,
sold.
in when it comes to through Christ, we are through Christ we are grafted in through the adoption, because we are through the adoption of Christ.
Yes, this is after the establishment of the kingdom. But that initial salvation, when the whole tribulation is going down, this is only for Israel and the mixed multitude of Israelites spread across the other nations. After the kingdom is established, the other nations will have the chance to come into the fold of that.
Where does it say? Where does it say?
Forever.
Where does it say that only Israelites will be in the millennial reign, and that the other nations are then allowed to have another go at it, basically, after the millennium reign?
I never said that. I said that Israel will gain their power upon the return of the second coming. The initial salvation that's going to come after the tribulation will be for the elect and the 1/3 of Israel, which are all 12 tribes, the 144,000 being the governing body of that 1/3 nation. And the 1/3 nation would be coming out from all the other nations because they are one nation. They've just been mixed into the other nations. After that kingdom is established and the 1,000-year reign and the servitude has been paid in full, then the other nations will have the ability to come into the fold and worship the same way. And this is why Isaiah 4:1 is so key, because it tells you that a woman's salvation, she'll be looking at a man as a shelter from a storm. The Israelite men will be the most valuable thing on the earth when the salvation comes, because that's the only thing that's going to keep them from the destruction, from the wind, the destroying wind that the Most High said he's going to put upon the earth, starting here in Babylon. These women, the only way they will have, again, there's no immaculate conception, because the only way they have salvation is by bearing the child of an elect.
Well, you've been debating the immaculate.
But it says that 7 women shall claim on to one man.
Yeah, no,
asking for him to pretty much take their reproach away.
You haven't been doing the immaculate conception. You've been doing the virgin birth. I think.
Yeah, we were talking about virgin birth before, and I had to prove that the virgin birth is not true, because you need a seed line to hand down the seed. And if the man carries the seed and he plants it in the woman is not the carrier of the seed. So where did the seed come from? Because the Most High is not a liar. I've never seen a woman produce without sperm from a man, which is why the whole thing about court systems and child support exists.
You seen Mary do it.
Huh?
Sorry, I dropped out then. Sorry. My internet dropped, so I didn't hear what was going on. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's the same aspect of the court systems today.
Without a man. I said, you seen Mary do it.
You said something?
Yeah, I said you seen Mary do it. So that debunks that argument you got.
I can't hear you. What?
Mary did it. You said we never seen a woman produce a kid without seed. I said yes, we did.
And this is what I'm saying. The Most High is not a liar. He's never had a woman produce child without seed put in her first.
Now,
just like today.
Wait. Hold on.
A woman cannot give birth to a child without having semen put in her.
Excuse me. You gotta give us a chance to respond to what you say. Okay. We've seen a bunch of miracles that was never done before. Okay, because the virgin birth is another miracle. So just because you never seen it before, it doesn't mean we throw it away. The Most High, I believe. Let me ask you a question. See, I don't know if you know the Bible. Do you know who Hannah is?
Hannah?
Yeah.
Go ahead, explain. No.
Right. So you got to humble yourself to say you never seen something. You don't know the Bible enough to have seen it. So let me give you a better name. Have you ever heard of Sarah? Abraham's wife, Sarah?
Yep.
Okay. How was she able to have kids?
He prayed to the Most High.
Okay, before then. Okay, cool. So have you ever seen a woman have kids before Sarah that was barren?
Yes, it happens now.
No.
The Most High is not a liar.
My boy,
that's why we have medical cases of women in their 50s having.
You gotta relax. I'm talking about Abraham's time. I'm asking you. Because you're basing
that story was to pertain about how a woman, after she reaches a certain age, is considered barren.
My boy, right? My boy, you gotta you're cutting in. You're in your feelings. Let me just explain. I'm saying before Sarah gave birth while being barren, have you ever seen that done before? Have you ever seen that done before in the Bible?
No.
Right. So just because you've never seen it done before doesn't mean it didn't happen. That's why it's called a miracle. Most miracles, well, listen, it wouldn't wow you if it was done before. It's called a miracle because you didn't see it before.
The miracle would have been the spirit of the son that was born to her.
No, the miracle is, well, first of all, my boy, how does a woman...
Because no other human being was born able to do any of the things that he was able to do.
Dude, relax.
That was the miracle.
Dude, relax. Well, you don't know what a miracle is, obviously. Let me ask you this. How was Sarah even barren? Why was she barren?
Go ahead, explain.
I'm always explaining to you because I'm a scholar. You're not. You're my student. So
I mean, like, this is what the whole demeanor's been. So go ahead, explain.
Right? No, you don't. Okay, I will give you all the time you need to explain that. You can't. I can ask you. I guarantee you is.
And this is why I'm telling you. Go ahead, explain. I'm gonna cut right to the chase. If I don't know about something, I'm gonna tell you just like I've been doing the whole time.
So be a student in silence and let me explain and let me talk.
Then get to the point, please.
Right, but you're at this point you're a student. So take the the Bible says
If you're gonna keep
the Bible says listen as much as you speak, right? So listen, you just spoke a lot. Okay, you just spoke a lot. Now listen a lot now. Listen a lot.
Go ahead, say what you gotta say. Damn.
He's still talking, bro. You're insecure. It's okay. You don't know the Bible, but I'm going to teach you tonight. How are all women barren? How do all women become barren?
I don't know.
You don't know much about the Bible. I know. I'm your teacher. I'm your rabbi. I'm your master.
You're asking a general question about how all women become
barren. Right.
Barren.
That's important because Rebecca, was she barren, by the way? Isaac's wife.
Yep.
Okay, Rachel, Jacob's wife, was she barren?
Like 21 questions now.
No, these are important women you read about. Didn't Rebecca have a kid from Isaac?
Yeah.
How did she have a kid?
Miracle.
What kind of miracle?
Same one you're bringing up.
Rachel, how was she able to have a kid?
Miracle.
What about Leah?
Miracle.
No, Leah was fertile. So you gotta stop guessing, my boy.
My point is like I'm just being sarcastic now because of your demeanor. Again, I'm not your boy. I'm not a child.
No,
you can talk to me like another man on here and give you respect like I'm giving you.
No, I call my son boy.
It don't matter to me. It don't matter to me.
Right now. No,
it don't matter to me because that's not what's going on. The demeanor on that aspect of how things are taken off. You clearly made that whole thing a whole different thing. This is not about the Bible. It's about your personal stance on standing on people.
I'm teaching you. You don't know.
Okay, so if you're gonna teach people. The teacher doesn't stand in the middle of the fucking class like I'm the teacher asserting dominance to people. Like, okay, then teach. If you're teaching, then teach.
Yeah, but you can't.
If you're teaching, then teach. Because you brought up the same offense that Yahawadah felt when he was being told, "Oh, you're not the son of David," and you were talking about, "Oh, you felt offended being son, right?"
You're my biological son. No cap.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the
You believe
Bible?
in a virgin birth, like you believe everybody's getting saved in John 3:16.
Dude,
you still call
are my
Jesus,
literal
Jesus.
son. You're
like,
my genealogy.
What? All right.
You're my genealogy. You're there. You're right after me. Okay? You're and thanks to me, you're in the lineage of the promised seed. Thanks to me. Okay. So Sarah, was she the first barren woman to have kids? This guy, you would think his phone on mute. Was Sarah the first barren woman to have kids?
I can answer that.
What was your answer?
We're not playing 21 questions. This is supposed to be a debate, right? From the beginning, I've been reading.
We're playing 21 answers. You're right. We're playing 21 answers. Give me the answers. Give me the answers. Don't give me a question. Give me the answers. You got the
answers, teacher. Give the answers. You know the whole Bible, right?
You're not.
You know everything about it. You know all the mysteries about the book.
You're not worthy.
You know all the mysteries of the book. It was given to you.
You are a swine. You're swine.
Okay.
I cannot cast my pearls on swine.
Hold on. Do you still eat pork?
Dude, you're not going to get it.
So, hold on. Do you still eat pork? Just answer that one question.
I haven't eaten pork since '96. What's up?
All right. That's one good thing at least. Because most people will be like, oh, no, it's called clean now. The Bible says it's clean now. Okay, cool.
My boy, you've done enough here. You showed your stupidity over and over and over.
You still go to the temple?
Like, you got to answer your question, man.
No, I'm
You still go to the temple?
Because you came in to jump in and defend somebody else's shit. Like, all right, you were trying to prove that Yahawadah literally didn't come from a virgin birth, and then it brought up the fact that I was like, yeah, this is why the whole thing comes up for salvation, being for the 12 tribes and the virgin. But okay,
I'm here.
Keep going where you want.
I was interested if Brother Daniel still goes into the temple 3 times a year.
What?
I was just wondering if you still go to the temple as you're instructed to do.
There is no temple here.
Right. So So if there's no
Because
temple,
we, as the
how-
actual Hebrews, aren't given temples. The people that
right.
stole
So
our
the temple,
identity
so the
have
temple,
the synagogues
temple isn't in place. So how do you keep the law?
by reading the word and studying the
Right.
word
So you're not
and
right,
discernment
but
that
you're
is
not
already
keeping
given
the
to you by the
you're
Spirit.
not keeping the entire law of Moses that you're meant to keep.
There's no keeping the entire law of Moses. That's why we needed the Messiah to come down, because nobody can keep the entire law of Moses.
Right. So if you can't keep the law of Moses, what difference is it whether you're eating pork or whether you're not going to the temple? Which one of those
There
would
is
be
a
the
difference
worst one
because
out
we're
of
clearly
all of
instructed
them?
not to.
Right. But you are clearly
It defiles the
instructed to
temple
go to the
because your
temple.
body is the temple. And if
Right.
you're eating things that defile your temple, which the Most High dwells within,
So when Jesus said that the things that go into the mouth, it isn't the things that go into the mouth that defile the body. Was he lying?
Here we go. It's clean now. Pork. So you're telling me pork is clean now, right?
I'm just trying to figure out what
This
your
is what I hear
your
for the argument
statement
every
is.
time. Shellfish, pork, crab, lobster, all that stuff is clean now, right?
No, what I'm saying is that I'm trying to just show you that you don't keep the law, and you're then telling somebody else that they don't keep the law.
When did I say that?
You went straight to, do you eat pork? Well, let's say that
I was just
Swazi
trying to get an
did,
understanding on his visual point on that precept.
right, but
That's
let's
it.
say that he said, yes, I eat pork. What would have been the response to that?
I would have said, okay, that makes sense. Because
Right.
your belief system
But-
aligns with it.
Right, but if the eating pork, if you cannot keep the law, does it matter which law that you're not keeping?
Just because you cannot keep the law doesn't mean you shouldn't try to keep the laws.
Where does it say that you should try to keep the law? To the
You're supposed to keep the law to the best of your ability at all times. But of course, we're in corruptible flesh. This is why it's hard to do that. Which is why we need the Messiah to come down and be that sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because every time we would have to
Right.
kill animals, there wouldn't be too many animals left on the earth.
So if the law is meant to be kept, but it's impossible to keep, that's why you would need a savior in order to take away that law, yeah? So that you don't have to keep it anymore.
And who was the law
Because
given
you can.
to?
Because you can't.
Who was the
keep
law
it.
given to?
The law was given to Israel.
Okay. So the Messiah died for Israel to keep Israel under the law and to keep them for their salvation.
No,
That's literally explaining right there that Israel is the one
to free them from the bondage of that law, so that he can remove the law
for the new
so that
covenant.
you're no longer under bondage to a law, because
For
the
the new
law
covenant, but the law still applies.
The law
still applies.
The law was to show you the schoolmaster, but after the schoolmaster, you no longer are under the bondage of the law. It was only until the schoolmaster should come. There's a good word there, until. What happens? What does that word mean, until? My internet is just...
What happened?
Right, for somebody.
What happened to LJ? He's on mute. He went on mute.
I wouldn't know.
Oh, so what was the last question you asked him?
I didn't ask any question.
Did he ask you a question?
No, he was making some points. There were no questions asked.
So did you learn a lot today?
I didn't learn nothing besides for people keep regurgitating the same thing that they learn in Christian churches.
Really?
Apologies again for dropping out, but I've got
Yeah,
major internet
Brother
problems. So.
Daniel said that he didn't learn too much from you.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not. I'm just.
I mean, like,
just
Hey,
interested in the discussion.
But, on this side of the phone.
Hey, Brother Daniel, it sounds like you, Brother Daniel, your arguments kind of sound like a Hebrew Israelite camp arguments. Are you sure you're not with a camp?
I am not with no camp.
It's funny. It's funny because I'm not with a church, but you keep calling me with a church. But if I call you with a camp, you're not with a camp. But you have similar arguments to a camp. Would you agree?
Because I read some other things and I study archaeology and all the other things that go along with the Bible.
So you don't watch. So you're not okay.
Things.
Cool. You don't watch no camps videos.
I have watched camps before. The hell, that doesn't mean everything. It's like saying,
no,
okay, you watch
I didn't say everything. I didn't say everything. I didn't say everything. I didn't say. Hold on, slow down. I didn't say everything. A camp like who? Who did you watch?
Mm-hmm.
Give me one camp. One camp. What camp?
You obviously probably already think you already know the camp, so go ahead.
No, bro. I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Which camp? So you can't be honest about anything, huh? I'm asking you which camp.
That's what I'm saying.
Which
this
camp?
Whole time.
Which camp?
Not like this whole time.
We're asking you a question about the camp. You just can't be honest. A simple question. Which camp?
Why does it bother you?
It doesn't bother me. I'm information packed. I'm just asking you which camp.
I don't go for any particular camp.
It sounds like you ain't named one.
I've read through a lot of different camps, heard their different stories, all the different things.
Can you just name one camp in particular? Just one.
Why? There's so many fucking camps. And they all teach generally around the same things, right?
So
you said that they're all camps, right?
So I'm gonna tell you
You're
why.
generalizing them as all camps.
So let me answer why. Because it sounds like the white Israelite camp from Idaho. That's why. That's what it sounds like.
I don't even know who those are. Like, I don't even know who they are.
That's why you're ashamed. That's why you're ashamed to name them, because it's that camp.
Brother Daniel, can I just ask you a question?
Like, how would I know anything about fucking Idaho? I'm not even on that side of the country.
Can I just ask you how is Jesus your high priest?
He's the highest priest.
Is he the high priest?
He is the high priest for Israel, which is also the king.
Okay, so he.
And if I'm an Israelite and I recognize the order, yes, he's my high priest.
Right. So that's the high priest is separate from the king.
Aaron.
He is the king and he is the high priest, but they are two separate titles because there is a high priest and there is a king in Israel. But the king comes from Judah.
Judah is the lineage of the kings, which is what he was born from.
Right. What tribe does the
Levi.
Does the high priest come from?
That's the priest, Levi.
Right. So how can Jesus be your high priest if the law still remains?
Because he taught the Levites same thing. The Levites were waiting for his promise, the same thing.
Right.
But the Levites are the connection to the spirit world for the Most High. Okay. They are the mouthpiece to instruct the rest of Israel.
Right. So if he is of Judah and the law remains, how can Jesus be the high priest?
He's the closest connection to the Father.
Paul states that Jesus is the high priest of the tribe of Judah that was not spoken of for the high priest. So how can he be the high priest?
Okay, what are the qualifications for a high priest?
So the high priest must be a Levite, specifically of the tribe, specifically of Aaron.
So they can't be high priests of the other tribes?
You can only be the high priest from Levi.
That's like saying the Levites can't be kings. There's a
Right.
king of the Levites.
Right. Was that the king of Israel?
No, that's not the king of the whole Israel. It's the king of the tribe.
Right. Okay.
There's
So
leaders assigned to the tribes, and then there's the tribe leader, which is the head tribe,
okay.
Israel.
Right, but that's not the king of Israel, is it? So the high
No,
priest
Judah is the king
has
of Israel.
right, and the high priest comes from Levi through Aaron. But Jesus cannot be both.
No,
He is
because he's a
one
Judite.
tribe or the other. So if the law still remains, how can he be the high priest? And why does Hebrews 7:12 tell us that by necessity, with the change of priesthood, the law must change as well?
So the new laws will be getting, but it's not gone until it's already established when he comes back on the return.
So he's not the high priest.
We're still under the laws right now.
Right. So he isn't the high priest right now.
What do you mean?
If the law still remains, you just said that in the new law.
If there was a high priest that he was not the high priest and he was here to be the king, how would he become the high priest? Like
okay.
You're answering your own question.
So in Hebrews 4:15 it says, "For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin." That's Jesus saying that he is a high priest. We don't have a high priest who hasn't had this, right? But he was tempted in all ways like we are, but he was yet without sin. So Jesus is the high priest. Verse 14. I don't know if I'm right. Verse 14. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession. So if Jesus is the high priest, which he is, which it clearly states that he is the high priest, but he is not of Aaron, how can he be high priest unless the law has changed?
Because the law changed because of him.
Right. So Hebrews 7:12, for the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. The law has changed. You can't have the same law. You're trying to argue that the law remains, but the law has changed. I'm not arguing that there isn't a law. There is a law, but it isn't the one that you're appealing to. It isn't the Mosaic.
I'm not talking specifically about the Old Testament law specifically.
Right.
Because certain things in the Old Testament still apply till now. It's just harder to do that in today's living standards. Which is why we needed the Messiah to come and change that. Because if he had to come back now without that sacrifice, nobody would be here to do it.
Right. So let's talk about the food one.
There's over 613 laws. Like you're gonna ask me which laws will remain.
Well, you were talking specifically about pork, about food. How would you prove that?
I just brought that up because it's a general thing that even the Ishmaelites that call themselves the Arabs and the Muslims today recognize that there was a reason why we were instructed in the Bible to not eat pork.
Right.
They're just willing to go to more of an extent for it.
Right. I agree.
To enforce that.
But we also have verses that are telling us clearly. Peter does it, and Jesus says about it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man. Right, that's what Jesus states. But Paul argues. I keep saying Paul, it's Peter. Peter argues that in fact, he was shown 3 times by God that what was unclean has now been cleaned. All right. So I'm just interested in this specific
And that was
law.
talking about pork. that was talking about pork and meat specifically?
I'm just interested into to your understanding of that.
That's what I'm asking. Was that specifically talking about the foods?
He was using the food analogy, but it shows what it's actually is. There it is showing that it's got a physical meaning, as in the food that you consume that is no longer unclean because God has cleaned it. But also it has the spiritual meaning behind it, which shows that the Gentiles, which were once unclean, are no longer unclean. They can be, because the Israelites would not go out to the unclean. But now Jesus has died. He's resurrected. This is why Jesus says, now go to the ethne. Now you can go to the ethne, to the unclean. What you considered unclean, you can go to them now. And Peter was told 3 times to go to the Gentiles. And he wouldn't go. But God told him 3 times in the book of Acts, go to the Gentiles. Paul calls himself an apostle to the Gentiles. Right, but you're going to assert that these are Israelites, but these are the unclean. These are the ones that they were not allowed to go and speak to when Jesus says, I have only come for the lost sheep of Israel. Do not go to the ethne, to the Gentiles. Do not go to the Samaritans. But then when he dies and is resurrected, he now tells them, now go. Now you go to the
which would
ethne.
fulfill the prophecy of the word spreading to the 4 corners of the earth.
But
for the time to come, for the elect to get into the fold,
okay,
before the second coming.
So
this is why
so
he told them, go
only
teach it, because
came
you
for
don't
the
know who
lost
you're
sheep
teaching
of
in those
Israel.
publics.
Right. So if he only came for the lost sheep of Israel, who are they? Who are the lost sheep of Israel?
Are Israelites.
Right. Okay. But who are they specifically? Who are they?
They are lost, as in they are not under the laws. They are doing other things than they're supposed to be doing in their homeland.
Right. Okay. So they're not the would be classified as what you would call Gentiles.
Yes, Gentiles.
Right.
They're living outside of the land of Israel, doing heathen things with the heathen people they live among.
Okay. So Jesus only came for them, yeah? So when he says, do not go to the ethne, to the Gentiles, but he's only come for the Israelite Gentiles, but he says, don't go to the Gentiles. That's the exact same group that he says do go to in the after the resurrection. So who are these ethne? Are they non-Israelites or Israelites?
You said it yourself after the law was switched, right? You're
right.
not, if you're an Israelite living outside of the law at that time, before the law was switched, you had the same punishment as.
Right.
I don't even know how to break this shit down. Like, I've literally covered this like 3-4 times already.
No, because you're now confused. You're now contradicting yourself. Because in that verse, he says, do not go to the ethne,
when I'm telling you that the
who you are
that were out
saying,
there were the mixed speckled birds,
the
Israelites that were mixed among the other nation. They needed to hear it. And if you judge the whole nation by saying, "Oh, it's a group of Canaanites over there," I'm not gonna go preach to them. Well, how do you not know that there's a couple Israelites mixed among those Canaanites?
Yourself.
You need to go over there to those Canaanites and preach, because while preaching to those Canaanites, you're gonna hear you mixed among those Canaanites.
You've literally just contradicted yourself, because in the same verse where he says, I've come for the lost sheep of Israel, who you say are the Gentiles, he says, don't go to the Gentiles. So how can he be saying, don't go to the Gentiles?
Because the Israelites were living like Gentiles, so they are counted as Gentiles. Just like the heathens are counted as dogs. There's analogies for certain things.
He came for those.
Israelites living in America would be me calling myself American in a modern day sense. We already know that there's
you're contradicting yourself.
People living in the same area of America. Now you have to be more specific. There's Israelites that were living in those lands, calling themselves those names.
Right.
They did not know of the law. They were not aware of these things. They were living like the nation they were living in.
Is that who Jesus came for?
Go out there and teach these Gentile nations,
Right.
because this is for the lost sheep that are mixed in those Gentile nations.
Right. So Jesus came for the lost sheep of Israel, who are the Gentiles, but Jesus said, don't go to them. But then when he rose again, he said, go to them. So he literally came for the lost sheep of Israel and then stated, don't go to the lost sheep of Israel. But then when he rose from the dead, he said, go to the lost sheep of Israel. How can you, how are you, what is that argument?
I've already explained it.
You're arguing that the lost sheep of Israel are the Gentiles, but Jesus said, don't go to the Gentiles. But you're saying that he only came for
Romans 9 and 3,
the
where he was
Gentiles.
talking about who those people were. Because the adoption only, you literally agreed with me as I went through these verses.
In Matthew 28:19, it is the exact same people that Jesus said, don't go to. Jesus says, I've come for the lost sheep of Israel.
What was the turning point? After the resurrection, right?
No, we're dealing with before, because you are conflating the Gentiles and the lost sheep of Israel as one, but they're literally separated.
When did the law change as you stated?
The lost sheep of Israel, right? He says, I've only come for the lost sheep of Israel. Then he says to his disciples, do not go to the ethne, which are the Gentiles. But you just said that the Gentiles are the lost sheep of Israel. So who is he telling them to go to? Is he telling them to go to the lost sheep of Israel or not to go to the lost sheep of Israel?
He's telling them to go to the law. I've literally 3 times said this. Go teach the lost sheep of Israel that are scattered among those Gentiles that I told you not to teach before, because it did not pertain to them. But there are Israelites mixed into those lands. You need to go teach to them, because now this law talks to them, because they're outside of the law. They need to come back to the fold. They need to come back to serving their father.
No, because you're now ignoring the simple fact that Jesus said, don't go to the ethne.
Ethnic. The ethnic.
The ethne, that's the Greek. That's the Greek for Gentile. Ethne. He says, don't go to them. But you're saying that those are the Israelites.
Let's pull it up. Full letter. You can get the definition of the words in the Greek.
Yeah. Matthew 28:19. That will give you the first one.
All right, where was that word?
Matthew 28:19.
Yeah, I see. Go ye forth, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Ghost.
What word is that? What word is that?
What word is what?
The nations.
All the nations. Yes, teach all the nations.
Yeah. What word is that in Greek?
We'll find it.
Strong's 1484.
I'm running on 2 different apps right now. Give me a second.
That's okay.
If you have it pulled up, go ahead, read it out.
So Matthew 28:19, where he states, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit," or Holy Ghost. All nations. That there, nations, is the Greek word ethne, which is Strong's 1484. A race, a nation, the nations. as distinct from Israel. A race, people, nation, the nations, heathen world, Gentiles. It's ethnos in the full word there. Ethne is the conjugation.
Ethnos, which will we get the term ethnic today.
Ethnos, yeah. So in Matthew 10:5.
Hold on. Who will we count as ethnic people modern day? Who will we count as the ethnic people?
No. We're not talking about a derivative, an English
I know, but the
derivative
word
of that.
derivative comes from the root, and the root is still the same meaning.
No.
Ethnic.
This isn't English. Ethnos is not
The ethnic
English.
people
It is a
is still
Greek
referred
word.
to right now as the same group of people.
No, because that isn't an English derivative of a Greek word. That is how in English you don't go and use the Greek word in order to demonstrate what the English
race.
word
Teach
means.
Teach the nation's
No.
definition: a race, a nation, the nations from Israel, as distinct from Israel. This
as
is me
distinct
reading
from Israel. Right. So this is ethnos. This is the ethnos. They are not. They are heathen world, distinct from Israel.
heathen world.
They're the Gentiles. So now he's telling them to go to them. What people? The Gentiles. In Matthew 10:5, he states, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. What word is that? What word is Gentiles in that verse? It's ethnos, the heathen world. He said, don't go to the heathen world, the Gentiles. Don't go to them, nor the Samaritans, but go to the lost sheep of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he's telling them not to
Don't
go
teach
to the
the heathen.
Gentiles,
Teach
don't
the
go to the
Israelites.
heathen, just go to the Israelites. Right. So you're saying that he's being sent to the Israelites, who you're saying are the Israelites living in other amongst other nations.
Because they were
are
outside of the law,
Israelites.
they would be counted as heathens. They would be
Right.
counted as heathens.
Okay. So when he
They're
says
outside of the
go,
law.
right. So how can he be saying go to the Israelites, who are the ones not living under the law? But
A
then
people,
he
a
says,
nation still
don't
not
go
living
to
under the
them.
laws, and that could still count as Israelites outside of the land of Israel. They are not living under the laws. If they're calling themselves Canaanites and they live like Canaanites, hey, go to these Canaanites, which look like Israelites or whatever the hell it is, but they're calling themselves Canaanites, and teach specifically them, not the rest of the Canaanites, because it's not for them. Go to Canaan.
So he says,
and
go to the lost sheep of Israel, because
there's going to be Israel calling themselves Canaanites in the land of Canaan, and they're not aware that they're Israelites. So you're supposed to go to Canaan and teach this word to let them know who they are.
Right. So how can he be saying, so if he's sending them to Israelites, how can he be telling them in one verse to not go to the Gentiles, but then in the other verse, he's telling them to go to the Gentiles, who are the exact same people, if he is only sending them to the lost sheep of Israel? He's already sent them to the lost sheep of Israel, but they are not the Gentiles. They're distinct from the Gentiles.
Until he left. That's when they went out on their ministry. They stayed in one general. That's where majority of the teachings were, is in a general location. Then they were told to go out afterwards to teach the rest of those people that didn't get the chance to hear that.
What?
When
Say that again?
He had a specific group of people in mind first. He stayed there teaching them. When he was leaving, he said, hey, some people that are supposed to be here didn't get the message. I need you guys to go over there into these other nations, where these people are calling themselves those other nations, and teach to them, because they are the lost sheep in those lands.
You just
completely
made that up.
If you're teaching in this land, you're going to be teaching to these people, which I told you not to before, because it wasn't for them.
You're not getting any of that from scripture. You've just made that all up. You've just made that completely up. I'm going to the Greek and showing you that the ethnos.
Summarizing things, just making it all up, I guess.
Wow. You didn't go to one scripture. I'm literally showing you in the Greek that he says, don't go to the ethnos, but go to the lost sheep of Israel. And you're telling, and the ethnos are the Gentiles, and you're saying that the Gentiles are the lost sheep of Israel, but he's saying don't go to the Gentiles. But then in the next, after his resurrection, he's telling them to go to the Gentiles.
That there are Israelites that live like Gentiles, which would consider them Gentiles.
Right,
if
so
you
that
live
would be
like
the
a
lost
heathen,
sheep of Israel.
You are considered a heathen outside of the law.
Right, so that would be the lost sheep of Israel.
Wow. And if they're calling themselves Gentiles and they're living like Gentiles, they identify as Gentiles.
Right, so if they're Gentiles, how can he then be saying don't go to the Gentiles?
They don't know who they are. They are away from the shepherd. If we're looking at it as a general plot,
this is hurting my head.
Supposed to be.
This is hurting my head
These
that you are literally saying
so far away from these areas for a certain amount of time.
Go to the lost sheep of Israel, who are the Gentiles, living amongst the Gentiles, but don't go to the Gentiles.
Because the word is not for the Gentiles. They're going to hear it.
But you just said that they are Gentiles.
Hold on. They're going to hear the word, but you're here to teach the elect sheep that are mixed among these Gentiles. They call themselves Gentiles because they don't know who they are.
It would work. It would work if ethnos was not.
Teach them about their father. Teach them about their laws. Teach them about their customs, so that they may come out of those nations.
Right. This would work. This would work if Jesus was calling he was calling the lost sheep of Israel Gentiles.
They're going to grasp on to that. That's where their chance of grafting comes from, because that's where the curse comes from. Of those that bless Israel shall be blessed, and those that curse Israel shall be cursed.
Right.
Israel
this would work.
All the lands right now. Why is the word going out to all the world? If Israel was all in one place, the word wouldn't have to go off to everywhere. But Israel got scattered, so the word has to get to those four corners where Israel resides.
Right. Like I say, this would work if you weren't trying to clump the Gentiles with the lost sheep of Israel. Because you're saying that they are Gentiles. But he's saying
they are Gentiles if they're not considering themselves Israel. If they're not living according to the laws, they are Gentiles and heathens. They're living according to pagan rules and ideals.
Right.
The Most High does not. He doesn't favor anybody that doesn't favor him.
Right. How you cannot. This is so basic. I don't know how you can't grasp this. You're saying that the lost sheep of Israel.
But I'm telling you that there is mixed people. The things that we're taught is the same thing as mixed multitudes in nations. Not one nation was just one people. That's like saying America is just only Americans. What's the definition of an American? There's a mixed multitude of people here in America. You can't just lump everybody else as one thing.
All right. Okay. So he says
it's like saying you go to South Africa. Everybody's South African, but you know there's obviously different people coming from different areas living in that same place.
I have to repeat this because you're saying that the ethnos, right, are the lost sheep of Israel, but he's telling them not to go to the ethnos, but to go to the lost sheep of Israel.
That's my point. If you're missing that point, that there's ethnos, as in, if you're looking at them as the Gentiles, the true Gentiles, and then there's the people that consider themselves Gentiles, but they are really the lost sheep living among the true Gentiles. You're supposed to
now you're arbitrarily just making
Gentiles living amongst the
assertion when the Gentile means Gentile and when it means the lost sheep of Israel. You're literally just making that. You are making that up when that, because
it just says usage, a nation, heathen, world, and like I said, obviously there's points in the Bible where Israelites were living like heathens and they were punished for it, right?
Right.
They were considered as Gentiles.
Right. Okay. So
they were considered as heathens because of their actions, because of their unwillingness to serve their
We've got the disciples going to the ethne, and we've got the disciples not going to the ethne. But then we've also got them going to the lost sheep of Israel. Which one is it? Which one are the lost sheep of Israel? Are they the ethne or not?
They are and they are not.
Right. Okay.
Just like you were trying to say, a heathen can become an Israelite. An Israelite cannot become a Gentile. They can practice Gentile And a heathen can practice being an Israelite, but you don't become an Israelite overnight because your ideals change.
When Jesus
Now, these heathens,
when Jesus sent
or
out his disciples
Israelites
in
were
Matthew
living in these
28:19.
Gentile lands, they were
Right.
considered as Gentiles because of their
Right.
practices.
Okay, can you show
Because
us
they lived in the land of heathens
in-
and they did what those heathens did. Just where we
in
get the
Matthew
term, when in Rome,
28:19.
do as the Romans do.
in Matthew 28:19, when Jesus sends out the disciples to the ethnos, okay, when he sends them out, can you show that he is sending them to only to the Israelites in those lands?
He's sending them to the lands.
Right.
There's
He's
Israelites and there's Gentiles and heathens.
No, he's
all
he's
mixed among
sending
those
them to
different
the
lands.
people. He's
But the
sending them
message
to the
is
people.
only supposed to be for one people. That's who the salvation and the promises and the adoption, everything comes from. There's priorities on who the word goes out to first.
The Jew first,
Just
and the
like in
Gentile.
salvation, there's priorities. He's going to prioritize certain people over others. Yes, you can go into these lands, but you're not here to speak to everybody. You're here to reach out to the people that the message is supposed to be for.
Okay.
You're going to get a lot of other people's ears, and those people, the word is not for them. They're going to hear you, and they're going to walk by because those are Gentiles.
Can I just try and kind of steel man your argument here? Are you saying that in Matthew 10:5, when Jesus says, "Do only go to the lost sheep of Israel, don't go to the Gentiles," Jesus is saying, "Only go to the Gentiles who are the lost sheep of Israel, don't go to the Gentiles who are Gentiles"?
No, I said the land. You're going to these lands and you're going to preach, but the message is going to go and reach the elect or the mixed Israelite in there that are supposed to hear this word. This is what the word is for. The word is not supposed to go out to everybody.
Right. So they didn't go. So they didn't go to the Gentiles
first. The Jews heard it because they were in the vicinity.
So they didn't go to the Gentiles then?
No, because the promise doesn't go to the Gentiles either.
Right. So how could they have gone and preached?
They can convert and get the benefit
to the Gentiles
of
if he said, "Don't go to." Oh, this is Swazi, jump in because this is hurting my head.
Like
you're
being called a nation and a land.
You're literally saying that he didn't go. They didn't go to the Gentiles, but they did.
Yeah, brother.
They did go to the Gentiles because the Gentiles are the majority of the people in those lands. Those were Gentile lands, but there were Israelites in those lands that were the scattered sheep that needed to hear the message among the Gentiles.
But he said, "Don't go to the Gentiles."
If I'm playing a speaker in a public system and I'm saying, okay, I'm only making a song specifically for women, and there's men in the crowd, does that mean the men can't hear the song?
Right. But then but later on, when I say only you're allowed to play it to the men, all right? Does that mean that now you can play it to the men? If I tell you, don't play the music to the men, only play it to the women.
The law was only for the Israelites. That's the thing. Right. That's what he's trying to say. The song is specifically only for the women. Just because I'm playing it doesn't mean it's for the men. The law is only for the Israelites. Just because you're preaching it doesn't mean it's for the Gentiles.
Matthew 10:5, he says.
LJ.
In Matthew
10:5,
he says.
LJ, can you hear me?
Only play the music to the women. Don't play it to the men. Mm-hmm. Then in Matthew 28:19, he says you're allowed to play it to the men.
You can hear me, LJ?
Playing already.
I can hear you, Swazi. Yeah.
And the music was designed for one person.
So LJ, listen. To move to the next point, he got it. When he sleep tonight, trust me.
We'll talk about that this is a tune that only the elect will be able to dance to.
When he sleep tonight,
the Most High
an angel gonna come to him in a vision, like it did Peter.
Not everybody can get the song.
Like it did Joseph. Trust me, he got it, and he got to sleep on it. So yeah, believe me, he got it. He's a smart man. So when he goes to bed tonight,
I'm just going to finish off his analogy just
quickly,
and then I'm going to move on. So you say
Especially if we're all in this thing about
Matthew
smart
10,
math
5.
stuff. Like, why are you being condescending to other people? We're
Right,
all
in
about
Matthew
faith,
10,
right?
5. In Matthew 10:5, you're saying, he says, only go to the women and play the music. If men are there, it's okay. But then in Matthew 28:19, he literally says, go to the men. There's your analogy. It works. Go and read those two verses and you'll be able to see.
Thing. It's the same thing. The word was the same thing, Gentile. Again,
Exactly.
I would just put
And
the
in
men
one
and women
verse
as
he
the
says,
separation between the actual Israelites and the Israelites that are
And-
living in the land of the people that are
and in
Gentiles.
one verse he
The
says,
Gentiles are going to hear the word anyways. It's not for
Right.
them because the law is not pertaining to them.
right. And in
The
one verse he
adoption
says,
and the
don't go.
promises
And
is
in
not
one verse
pertaining
he
to
says,
them.
go. So you can't have both. You can't have both because in one verse he says, don't go. And then the next verse he says, go to the exact same people. So you can't have it what you're trying to argue because it doesn't work, because it literally states in one, don't go. Then he says, go to the exact same people.
All right, and that's why I read earlier Romans 9:3, talking about who the word was going to be reaching out for. Is it people that share his bloodline of Israelites?
Just like Caleb.
That's who pertains to the adoption.
Yeah, because Caleb was...
The Israelites are the ones that the word is for. That's the whole point of why the word is supposed to be spread to the four corners of the earth before the end happens, because the Israelites have to make their choice on whom they will serve. Because if Israel doesn't come back to the Most High, everybody's going to catch the judgment, including Israel. But Israel is being beckoned to come back before the judgment happens. This is why the word is going out for Israel first, the lost sheep. The other nations already have their judgment sealed because of what they've done previously. The Most High is going to punish them. That's why they have to serve Israel. And if you disagree with those verses where the other nations are going to be serving Israel, you can read that yourself too.
No, LJ, here's some advice. LJ, here's some advice. Ask him to read the word Gentile where it's actually speaking about Gentiles and not Israelites.
Read it yourself, dude. You want to participate in the shit? Like, read it.
Nah, I'm out. I'm just a mediator. That's all.
I'm.
Read it.
I'm out of the. I gotta be honest. That's kind of.
Hey, Daniel, brother Daniel, are you there?
What's up?
Do you think you did a good job tonight?